Positive energy all the time. Hope everybody's having a great night. Hope you're off work tomorrow celebrating MLK. Much respect to MLK. May he rest in power. Very positive brother. We are here again. I'm here with my good brother Pozi. We're going to have a great night. We're going to be discussing the Bible. Also, we're going to be basically showing you the difference between my live stream when I'm talking and my live stream when I have a guest, okay? Because when I have a guest, we're reasoning. And so the guest can say anything the guest wishes to say and can express any view that the guest expresses to view. Because as I tell y'all all the time, I don't like people uh, over talking me in the chat, because when I'm over here by myself, I'm addressing the audience and I have the floor. In this situation, both I and Pozi has the floor and he's the guest. So he can say whatever he want to say, whenever he want to say it. If I say something and he thinks something makes him think something different, he's going to say it. So we're going to show you the difference. We're going to show you reasoning between brethren and how it's really not no big deal, and how it's different when two of us have the floor and one of us have the floor. So this is going to be a great discussion. Without any further ado, my good brother, Pozi.
What's up, bro?
Good to see you, brother. I did change my mic. I had my mic from far, and now near, and now I got it far. So I might sound better. I'm not sure.
It sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, good, brother. It's good to see you.
Good to see you again.
And bro, they demanding you, so this look like this is going to be a continuous. I think this is going to be like regular, because they really enjoy these conversations. It's really good for them to hear from somebody else.
Right.
And you're in the church, so
Right.
it's good for them to get the perspective from somebody actually in the church.
Right. Right.
Right now, what's it? Okay, so now being in the church,
Right.
what is your perspective on the church, and what do you bring to the church, and what's your reasoning for being interested in going to church and being a deacon? Because you are a very unique person, because you're a Rasta man Christian. So you're a
Right.
Rasta Christian in the church and a
Right.
deacon. And that's
True.
I think that's great. I'll be honest with you. That's powerful.
Right.
So
Right.
what's your perspective?
Um, like you said, it's a unique situation, and because of my thirst for knowledge, man, for the Bible and just knowledge in general, um, hopefully I bring a perspective to the church that may not been seen before, So I don't put myself in a box. I don't limit myself to um, just really the dogma that a lot of time comes within the church. I try to search for the truth and see what things can be clarified from my understanding and from my research, and things I try to bring to the forefront, people that I talk to and that want to learn more, my perspective on, how I think we should be living, what should be our liberty as this title of so-called Christians, but living in the way. That's the way they say Christ said it, living in the way. So, um, yeah, I think I bring a unique perspective, and me being a lover of history, man, I think is very, very positive too. So linking the Bible, basically kind of like what you did with Moses, and linking those dates up and figuring out that he was a Kenaton at some point. So those type of things, I think we need to do. people that read the Bible and people that's in the church um, take it a little bit more seriously, and really, really, really read the Bible and seek understanding. So that's just my perspective on
So, like, does anybody else in your church have dreadlocks?
it. This is interesting, man. Um, when I first got there, I think it was it was a young man that had some dreads. He had been growing his for a while. And I don't think it was anybody else. And when I came there, I had already started growing my dreads. And it seems like people started to grow dreads. So one other young man, and I had one of my cousins. A matter of fact, all three of them started growing dreads. Um, my other cousin, they started growing dreads. A couple of other members started growing dreads. So I don't know if I sparked that or not. But if I did, I think it was positive, because that's the natural state of our hair. And matter of fact, it was an older lady that had some dreads. She had been growing hers for a while. Actually, two older ladies that have been growing dreads for a while. So, it was very interesting, man. And I think the atmosphere that we have there allows that. So when I was younger, I was kind of apprehensive of growing dreads because of, in the Black culture, some of our older people, they don't think you're supposed to have naps. You're not supposed to have dreads. Everything
Right.
is supposed to be slicked back or waves.
Right.
Things of that nature, which is not, well, I won't say not in our culture, but is not the natural state. You shouldn't have to brush your head 1,000 times to make your hair flat.
Right.
That's basically what you're doing, brushing out your naps.
Right.
So, yeah, I think people coming out of the country, and me, like you were the first generation of um, a young Chicagoan growing
Mhm.
up. Your parents coming from Alabama. My
Mhm.
parents came from what they call Crew, Virginia. So they grew up in a rural area and then they moved to Richmond, which was a city. So me and my brother and our family was kind of like first generation, city boys, city country boys. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it was still some of those old traditions that we had really come from slavery. You need to cut your hair. Nothing should be out of place. Your beard should be cut. You should shave. All of that type of stuff that I think was brought up from that time period. So it was kind of hard breaking away from that. But once I got older and actually read the scripture, saw that John the Baptist had dreads, Samson had dreads, all of these people had dreads, Christ had dreads. Why am I not growing dreads? And looking at a scripture, um, and it really was misinterpretation of that scripture towards a certain people, and which I think they were more European people going, because Paul and Peter were going out to teach the European. It was a situation going in within that area, and why he said something about long hair. But if it was a Nazarite vow back in Deuteronomy saying not to cut your hair, why would it be different now? And Christ had dread, so it was a contradiction there. And how sometimes when I see things, I won't even say that it's a contradiction. Um, I think you have to look at things in its proper perspective, and those letters were sent to certain people for a certain situation that was going on with them. So when I see that, and it's the so-called contradiction, which is really not, I always go back to what Christ said. And Christ ain't say nothing about men not having long hair or having dreads. And he actually had dreads. His cousin had
Right.
dreads. So,
Right.
that's kind of like my litmus test when I see things that look a little funny. I always go back to what Christ said. So,
And
yeah.
Christ said to Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan."
Right.
You got to understand that Peter and Paul were demons. They were two of the negative people that was hanging around Christ, definitely on the negative side of things. When Christ was murdered, Peter said he had a vision that
Right.
us and the Gentiles were sitting together eating pork.
Right. Right. Right.
So Paul and Peter uh, were basically false prophets
Mm,
that took advantage of being around Christ.
right.
And Paul and Peter are the first, like Pat Robinson's, the first evangelists
Right.
that went out and misused Christ
Right.
to become like preachers.
Yeah, and see, you're not the first person that I've heard say that. And like I said, I've been reading those scriptures, and to hear that, like you said, given your perspective of a person in church, it's kind of rough to hear something like that. But you have to go and read and see what your perspective is and how you feel about that statement, and what Christ, like you said, what Christ said about Peter. Christ was on a mission, and apparently Satan was using Peter to stop him from doing his mission. So that is very powerful, man. And this is the other thing. It really makes you think, man. And that's why you said, I like when you said don't reject, even if people don't understand that statement that you just said. Um, Take it, look at it. And if you look at what Christ said, one of the people that he said that he loved was John. And
John.
John that I love.
Right. And John was the one that wrote Revelation.
John was the one that wrote Revelation. So I would just tell people, don't reject it. Just like you said, don't reject it. Sit on it. Just think it. Don't reject it or accept it. Just sit on it, ponder upon it, and keep on reading your scripture. And whatever's supposed to be revealed to you will be revealed. But I
Well,
think a lot of times when people hear hard statements like that, they get put off. And you can't do that when you're trying to think at a higher level. You gotta just look at the information, and life will show you. At the end of the day, life will show you what's right and what's wrong. Yeah.
they get put off because for some reason they believe that God put the Bible together. And for some
Right,
reason, they really don't comprehend that Christ had already been murdered.
right, right,
See?
right, right,
And for some reason, they don't understand that the valuable books from
right.
the disciples is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Exactly,
And now,
exactly.
when you get to Peter and Paul at the end afterwards, considering that Christ told Peter, "You're going to deny me 3 times."
3 times.
Peter and Paul worked for the Romans, right? Peter
Right,
and Paul worked for the Romans. And so, what I would tell people in the church, if they look at Christ, they have to look at Christ as a man,
right,
and they have to look at their life as a man.
right,
And I would ask the church, if you was around 12 people, would they all be decent?
right, right,
Okay. Snakes in the grass. Yeah,
right,
you could ask a question, G-Rock. Feel free. So it's snakes in the grass. So they don't want to look at this as a real human story.
right. That's the thing. Um I know we don't like using word, but they over spiritualize it, and they don't put themselves in the shoes of Christ. If you, like you said, if you put yourselves in the shoes of Christ, there are certain things that were there. You had Judas that was there. So you got different signs to show you different things, but you can't have, like you said, preconceived notions. And at the end of the day, as people in the Christ in church that's supposed to be following Christ. Christ is the example anyway. So everybody else can make mistakes and say different things that may not sound correctly. But like I said, I always go back to Christ, and he gave the best example for me. So that's what I try to concentrate on.
Mhm, mhm. Peter and Paul were the ones that became evangelists and took the information
Right,
out there for people to become evangelists and start to preach in the name of Christ that
right,
really didn't have the best interest of Christ, because they were not taught by Christ to preach. They were taught by Christ to heal
right,
and to
right,
teach people how to use their higher power to be
right,
able to heal, to be able to walk on water. Remember,
Right.
he tried to teach them how to get off the ship and walk on water. So these was the thing was brought to it. And the reason that Peter and Paul are so big is because the Romans
Right.
took that and then twisted it
Right.
and started their church
Right.
from Peter and Paul.
Peter and Paul, not even on Christ,
Not
on
even
Peter and Paul.
on Peter. Yeah. And they
Right.
built their church on Peter and Paul, not on Christ at all.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I'm
Right. So,
saying?
and that's a sign right there. You're not supposed to be building your so-called church on another disciple. You're supposed to be building it on what Christ said and what he actually did. He was healing. That's what he was actually doing. He was healing people at the
Yeah.
end of the day and
Yeah.
telling us how to treat each other, basically to love each other and not to treat each other wrong. That's basically all he was saying.
Basically, if for the holy people or the people that consider themselves on trying to get on Christ's level, you would be working towards healing and things like that. As a
Right.
congregation, your message is to, if I'm hungry, feed me.
Right.
If I don't have clothes, give me clothes.
Yep.
If I don't have anywhere to live, give me shelter.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's the real basic principles of Christ, is to how can you love a God you haven't seen
Right.
and hate your brother you see every day. So you look at the migrant situation here in Chicago, there's not a problem with helping people.
Right.
The problem is as a government, you have to regulate,
Right.
because you
Right.
can't help people if you overdo it. Like if I have a house and I want to feed some people, I can't let 200 people in my house because I probably can only feed 3.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so G-Rod says, does the Bible speak clearly against premarital sex? What does it say, and what y'all think on that?
So yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up. What what is called fornication in the scripture. So this is my perspective, and I think what Christ was trying to tell us, and it was basically a way of preventing negative things happening to us before marriage. That's my perspective. So premarital sex. So um, I'll just give myself, use myself as an example. To me, in that perspective, when you're engaging in premarital sex and you're not seeking, for me, my wife, or for a woman, her husband, and you're engaging in the premarital sex, there's a soul connection there. So in the scripture it says, what God put together, no man can put asunder. So you're becoming two flesh and becoming one flesh. That's literally what's happening. And when you're engaging in sex, there's going to be a soul connection there. That's a fact. There's going to be it's a soul connection that you're making there, because at the beginning it says be fruitful and multiply. So the origin of sex is to have children. So if you're having children and you've become one, there's going to be a soul connection there. So, if you're serious about finding your wife or finding your husband, and you've had these physical relationships with people, there may be a situation where they're trying to enter back into your life when you're trying to be serious with your soon-to-be husband or wife. And that happens, in my perspective, because there's been a soul connection, because that sex was meant for a married couple, and for them to have that expression of love physically, and to ultimately bear children. So in my perspective, man, I think why it's pushed not to have premarital sex is because, first of all, it's that soul connection. You're going to have a connection with that person, especially if you're dealing with a person sexually for long periods of time. Um, a lot of times we tell our daughters, don't be having sex with all these men. And it's really not only for women and girls, it's for the young men as well, because you're going to have that soul connection if you don't know how to break it off correctly. So um, I think to prevent that, that's why it's pushed that fornication should not be done. You should not have premarital sex. And also now, I know when we was in middle school, man, they were kind of rough on us in sexual education and PE. They would actually show us images of STDs,
Mm-hmm.
and they to kind of scare us not to be having sex and everything, man. So
Mm-hmm.
um, now you're dealing with the physical part with having sex with a person that you may or may not marry. So now you're putting yourself at risk for STDs. Um, and that's not nothing to play with either. So um, there are consequences to that, man. And if you pick the wrong person, you get a STD. You pick the wrong person, and you may not be married with that person. You have a child, and now you have a relationship with a person that you may not love. It was just a sexual thing, and now you're connected with that person for the rest of your life, even if you don't, love them, or you don't really care for them. But since there was a physical connection, you're gonna have a soul connection there at the end of the day. So that's my perspective on it, man. Why um you should wait. I know it's tough, man. It was tough for all of us, what I'm saying, growing up, going through puberty and stuff. But if you can, I think it's the best practice, man, not to be, not to have a bunch of sexual partners, because there are consequences to that, man, especially if um, you're dealing with the wrong person, and you may have to deal with this person for the rest of your life. And like you said before, children that come out of that situation, they're never not blessed. Even if you look at Abraham and them was out of order for what's her name, Sarah, offering up what was the lady's name? I forgot her name. Um
When he had Ishmael.
when he had Ishmael.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She handed over her maid servant, and she had Ishmael, but Ishmael was still blessed even in that situation. So it's not saying that, it's going to all be bad, but it's going to be forever action. There's going to be a reaction. And I think especially for our children, and I know you stated it before about possibly being some type of STD pandemic with all the lewd sexual acts that's going on. Um, I think we got to look out for our children and kind of push to them, man. Hey, if you can sustain, man, sustain from it. And it's going to be in your best interest to just concentrate on your education. Date, there's nothing wrong with dating, but the sexual stuff, man, kind of stay away from it during, especially in this day and age with all these diseases and stuff, man. It's just, to me, it's not worth it at the end of the day.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to talk about this historically. Now,
Okay.
there's a historical context. First, we go back in ancient times. In ancient times, if I had a baby by a
Mm.
woman I wasn't married to, they were very brutal and abusive to these children.
Right.
These children were called bastards.
Right.
They were
Right.
they were scorned, and they were mistreated.
Mm.
They were basically treated like dirt.
Right.
You had many, many relationships. Many men had children out of wedlock.
Mm.
And the way they treated the children was worse than having a baby.
Mm.
Having a baby was way more decent and more righteous than the way they treated the offsprings of these people that was married, because they had these weird hangups at that time. Now,
Right.
when you look at the Bible, what a lot of people, Christians, don't understand when you talk about having sex out of wedlock, you're talking Moses. You're
Mm.
not talking Christ.
Right.
You're talking the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Right.
Now, a lot of people don't know that Christ, well, basically, one of the reasons Christ came was to shut down them overdoing the laws of Moses.
True. True. True.
A lot of people, a lot of Christians don't understand this, that they had took the laws of Moses out of context
Right.
and they were stoning people
Right.
for that. They were
Yep.
killing people
Yep.
for having sex and you're not married. They had become fanatical,
Right.
right? They had become fanatical. And so you have to look at the total perspective. Christ wasn't really on that like that. That's where forgiveness come in. That's where compassion come in.
Right.
Christ wasn't going strictly by the laws of Moses, because
Right.
by the time that they had disproportionately, they were dealing with the laws of Moses, and at the transfiguration, Christ met with Moses.
Right.
Now, I'm definitely against children going out here and young people just having sex with all these different people.
Right.
But now, let's say my son in 2024, he meets a girl, he dates the girl, they never have sex.
Right.
He marries the girl.
Right.
Honeymoon nights, he found out the girl's got a penis. What y'all say about that?
That's another conversation. Yeah.
Okay. He dates a woman, got breasts and everything, looks just like a
Right.
woman. He never gets to see this woman's body.
Wow. Yes.
Right?
We've talked about that. We've
He
had some conversations about that.
He marries this woman because he
Right.
doesn't want to see her body. She says, "No, I'm not going to take my clothes off." Right? Because until we get married. So my son goes and he marries this woman and finds out it's a transsexual. What y'all
That's
think
a
about
reality now. I have had this conversation. This is a reality. So it puts you in a tough situation, bro, because again, the scripture is being fulfilled. Men will be like women and women like men. So now we're actually seeing this firsthand, and this is a situation that our children are gonna have to deal with. So how
that?
do you combat that? And I've thought about that. Are we gonna have to get back to researching families, not per se premarital, not premarital, but arranged marriages? But how? That's a good question. How do you combat that? Because that's a tough situation.
Now let's take my daughter. She
Right.
meets a man. They want to go by that. My daughter and the man, they agree they're good Christians. They don't want to have sex until they get married.
Right.
My daughter marries the man.
Right.
And then he can't get it hard. The sex is no good.
Right.
And that's her husband. What y'all think about that? Come on to the chat. She marries him. He's about that big. And and
That's a tough situation, man. That's
in the real world.
right in the real world.
Now, for me, I'm totally for me in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally against my sons marrying any woman that they haven't lived with,
Gotcha. Okay.
because now you're getting into something you just really don't know
Mm.
what you're getting into, because you never know a person until you live with them,
This is true. Yeah. This is true.
right?
This is true.
And you're not going to buy a car unless you look under the hood.
Right.
And so I feel that being promiscuous is different than having sex.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
because the people I married, we had sex before we got married, and we had long marriage. My last
Right.
marriage was 20 something years, and we had
Right.
sex and we wasn't married, and we were together having sex, and then we got married.
Right. Right.
So, um, in terms of the scriptures and relationships, sex is just one part of it. You have personalities.
Right.
You got to be able to live together. And in
Right.
ancient times, women were mistreated.
Right. Yeah.
That's your husband. You had to stick with him, whether he
Right.
was brutal. He married you. He'd be all nice to you, marry you. Then he's beating you.
Right.
These husbands used to rape their wives.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so when we look at these ancient laws, they did not work really well.
Mm.
They did not work well because they became abusive situations, and people began to take these laws, and then they began to become God.
Right. Right.
So they
Right. Right.
began to judge each other based on that. Oh, you with this woman, you're not married, you're a sinful, stone him.
Right. Right.
As we
Right.
see where they was going to stone the prostitute, they said she was a prostitute, and they were
Right.
going to stone her. And then Christ said, "He is without sin, cast the first
Yeah.
stone."
Yep. That's the first stone. Yep.
But what's not told in that story is Christ used to be outside.
Right.
So Christ knew they were sleeping with her.
Right. Yeah.
So the same people that wanted to stone her were some of the people that was her customers,
Right. That
right?
was participating. Yep. Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the Bible says, "Thou should not commit adultery."
Right.
Adultery is when you're married
When you're
or
married.
when you're sleeping with someone that's married.
Right. Exactly.
Adultery is not for just people.
Premarital.
No,
Right.
adultery is not premarital.
Right. This is true.
Nothing in the Bible says that.
Right.
Not that I've seen. Have you seen it? Have you seen it where it says?
So I was looking up last night about fornication, and it brings up Matthew chapter 15,
Mhm.
and Christ talks about it in the parable.
Mhm.
I just read this last part that they asked him about it. So it says it's Matthew chapter 15, verse 15. Then and it's actually it talks about a couple of different things. You know how Christ was, he was multifaceted. He would
All right,
hit a bunch of things in one
all right.
parable.
Break it
But
down.
yeah, so chapter 15, verse 15, it says, Then answered Peter and said unto him, Declare unto us this parable. And Christ said, Are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever enter in at the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out into the draught, so into the toilet? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murderers, adulterers, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man. So the Pharisees was basically talking about traditions of men. He was actually talking about a tradition of man. You're supposed to wash your hands before you eat and all that stuff. That's what he was getting to. But like I said, when I was looking up fornication, and I thought Christ had said more about the fornication part, but those references was more in the letters. They were in the letters that Peter and Paul sent out. But he does mention fornications, adulterers and fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. Saying that these things, these evil thoughts, proceeds out of the mind, basically. So that's a tough situation.
And,
That's something you got to study, man.
and the Christian church has never defined
Right,
fornication and adultery.
right,
Now, I can tell you what fornication is.
But go ahead,
Fornication,
go ahead.
fornication is pedophilia.
Mm,
Pedophilia is fornication. Homosexuality is fornication.
interesting. Interesting.
Sex between a man and a woman is not adultery or fornication. It's only adultery when you sleep with somebody else's wife, because the Ten Commandments give strict laws that say, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. It does not
Mm,
say thou shalt not fuck somebody that's not married.
right.
Show me that in the Ten Commandments.
This is true.
The
This
only
is
thing the
true.
Ten Commandments say about sex is thou shalt not covet
Commit
thy
adultery.
neighbor's wife,
Right. Right.
which would obviously be considered adultery and
Right.
fornication.
Right.
There is nothing in the Ten Commandments, which were the laws,
Right.
that said two people that aren't with anybody could not have sex,
Right.
because
Right.
nobody married Adam and Eve.
Right.
Were
Right.
Adam and Eve married? No,
No, they weren't married in what our civilization called married. No.
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 So the word adultery and fornication has not been clearly defined.
And that's what I was about to say. And the way Christ said it said fornications.
And fornications is because what are people doing today? They're sleeping with animals. See, nobody puts, if you line all the sex up that people
Right.
are having, you'll find that one of the least problems is teenagers, a 19-year-old sleeping with a 19-year-old.
Right.
People are sleeping with dogs,
Right.
cats,
Bestiality. Yeah.
bestiality,
Right.
raping children,
Right.
sodomizing little boys.
Right.
What would that be called? That would be called fornication and adultery, because you're an
That's
adult,
interesting, man.
adult having sex with a child sounds like
Right.
adultery. The key word is adult.
Right.
It's called
Right.
adultery. All
Right.
right. So these things were never defined.
Right.
And this is why they killed Christ, because when Christ come and tried to define them,
Right.
they wanted to kill him.
Right.
Because back then, if your cow fall in a ditch on the Sabbath, you had to leave it there.
You had to leave it there. Right.
And
Yeah.
Christ said, no, get the cow out the ditch.
Exactly.
And they said,
Exactly.
oh,
Right.
you're going against the laws of Moses. But
Right.
no,
Right.
I'm going against your interpretation
Right.
of the
Right.
laws of Moses.
Right.
So when
Right.
it said, thou shalt not commit adultery, no, Christians do not have a clear definition of
Right.
adultery. But I would say
Right.
to Christians to look at some of the worst sex going on in the world,
Mm.
and I will guarantee you that is adultery.
Mm.
Innocent sex between two people, I don't see how that could be considered adultery.
Right.
Adultery is sleeping with your brother's wife,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sleeping with your sister's husband,
Right. Right.
having sex with your wife's children.
Right. Right.
Crazy stuff. Okay.
Right. Right.
And so for me, you're going to always take the most craziest situations, and that's what you're going to apply the law to.
Right. Right. That's
But
interesting, man. I haven't heard that perspective before about adultery and fornication. So yeah, we got some studying to do, man.
yeah,
We got
because
some studying to do.
the word adultery sounds a lot like witchcraft.
Mm. Mm.
It sounds like sorcery,
Right.
adultery. It
Right.
sounds, it doesn't sound like two unmarried people having sex. Does not sound like the term adultery. And
Mm.
fornication definitely sounds like pedophilia or something.
Mm.
Like when
Yeah.
I've had sex with women, it just didn't feel like fornication to me.
Right.
You know, God gives you a conscience, and
Yeah.
if I go to Pozi's house and he got some money and I take it, I'm going to feel guilty.
Right. Right.
And I've slept with a lot of women and I felt fine. I, where the hell is my conscience? My conscience quit on me. Okay. Where's my conscience?
You a trip, Pharaoh.
My conscience is broke. My conscience is broken.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
where's my
Right.
conscience? Why didn't I feel guilty?
Right.
I can tell you from my own experience, having
Hmm.
sex with some women before I married them was a blessing because I did not marry them, and hanging out with them, they just was not the one. And
Right. Right.
how long can I date, and how do I know who I'm marrying?
Well, let me ask you this: Do you think? Do you think there is a person that is meant for you to marry, or if one person, or do you think there is multiple people um, that fits you and that will fit your lifestyle that you should marry, or do you think it's just one person destined that you're supposed to marry and stay
I
with for the
think
rest of your life?
I think that sometimes you think there's one person you're supposed to marry to stay with, and then
Mm-hmm.
that person might disappoint you.
Mm, I got you.
I think your thoughts have nothing to do with the other person, and it has nothing to do with if the marriage is going to work.
Mm,
You know, a marriage only works after the marriage work. So
right.
if you live together and die together, then yeah, but give it time and see.
Interesting.
Because a marriage that you think is great could fall apart overnight.
Right. Right.
All of a sudden, this man or this woman telling you, "I don't be with you no more,"
Mm,
and uh, show me where that haven't happened billions of times.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, a marriage is a very, very complicated situation.
Right.
There's people in this chat that are happily married so far.
Right.
And good luck with that. Okay, get back at me. Okay,
Right.
okay. So far, it's going great from
Right.
what you
Right.
know, but you don't know
Right.
what your mate. You don't really know
No, we don't
uh,
know.
what's really going on. So, in
Right.
my perspective, I think they've taken "Thou shalt not commit adultery" and fornication, and I think they have put their own definition on it.
Mm,
Uh,
I got you.
words for you to be looked down on God, you have to be doing something evil.
Right.
There has to be an evil intent.
Right. Right.
And if
Right.
there's no evil intent, how can you say it's a sin or it's against God?
Right. Right.
You know, you're 21, you meet a girl at a party, y'all like each other, y'all have y'all have sex. Where is the sin? Where is the evil intent?
Right. Right. Right.
You know, and this is where things went left
Right.
because they started doing stuff, saying stuff about stuff that had no evil intent. And then
Mm,
they interpreted it as being evil. They said, oh, Pharaoh, stone him. He slept with Mary Ann, stone him.
right.
And
Right.
then they would murder me,
Right.
which is evil, because I had sex with somebody, consensual sex, and now you murder me,
Right.
and you're saying it's a righteous murder.
Right.
So you're saying
Right.
consensual sex is wrong, but you righteously can murder me like they was going to stone a prostitute. She's wrong for being a prostitute, and we're right for killing her.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
because
Right.
the Bible didn't say she was wrong for being a prostitute. The Bible said, "Thou shalt not kill,"
Right.
and they was going to kill her.
Right.
So how are they going to kill her in the name of Moses
Right.
when Moses said, "Thou shalt not kill"?
Right. 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 Right.
Is it mentally healthy for a woman to have numerous sexual partners? Well, this is what happens when you bring this kind of conversation up, Ivy. People go find the furthest extreme
Mhm.
to go against the conversation. So they was like, well, what about a woman sleep with 100 different men? Well, I can find what about all of the married people that cheated on their husbands and wives?
Right.
You got married in the name of God.
Yep.
Show me where divorce is in the Bible.
Right.
Make it make sense.
Right.
So adultery is no good, but a divorce is cool.
Right.
To have 3 different husbands, what's the difference?
Right.
To have 3 different wives, what's the difference? Christians get divorced all the time. We got some of your big preachers been married how many times?
Yep.
And they're going to tell you they didn't have sex with her until they married her. Bruh,
Right.
I mean, I guess there's
Right.
no difference than this preacher with 3 wives than me with 3 girlfriends. What's different? You still slept with 3 women, bro. You didn't.
Right.
You wasn't with one woman your whole life.
Right.
So people take these situations and they take them out of context. But I can tell you this, Ivy, if a man commits adultery and sexually molests a child, that girl might grow up and have numerous sexual partners.
Right.
Because let's get behind the mentality why some people are homosexuals, why some people have sex problems. Could it be from fornication and adultery that happened to them?
Right. Right.
Let's just put it in perspective. What happens to a woman where she living like that?
Right.
So then I'm this holy person. I want to stone her because she's sleeping with everybody. But then her stepfather raped her.
Right.
So now I basically stoned someone that has a problem from somebody else that actually did
Right.
commit adultery and fornication, because adultery and fornication could cause sexual problems for
Right.
the people you fornicated with and
Right.
you adulterate.
Yep.
So let's look at it from a psychological point of view.
Yeah.
Common sense tells me that adultery and fornication has to be an evil act.
Mm.
It has to have some negative, evil intent.
Right.
Because in the 10 Commandments, it doesn't say, thou shalt not sleep with children.
Right.
Okay, so which commandment means thou shalt not sleep with children?
True.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Which commandments means that you shouldn't molest a little boy? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Why is that not adultery? Why do everybody take adultery and just put it on 2 grown people having sex? Who said that's adultery?
Right.
Who said that? The church.
Right. This is
Well,
interesting, man.
the
This is interesting. Yeah.
church where adultery is rampant. Listen, if I want to sleep with a lot of black women, you know one of the best places for me to go? The church. They in there and they hot and it's popping. Some of them sisters have slept with, listen, in that church, they all have been sleep. Man, you don't even want to know
Mm.
what's going on in the church as far as what they call adultery.
Right.
Because it's a known fact. That's where you go get a woman, at the church. And all you got to do is play holy. All I got to do is go to church, play holy, act like I'm going to be her husband. All right? Act like
Yep.
I'm a good Christian man.
Right.
And then when I get in her panties, then I turn back to a demon.
Right.
And so, and then, because there's white men that go marry women just to take all their money.
Right.
So marriage is not always righteous
Right. You're right.
because people could get married for wicked purposes.
Reasons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the this is a great conversation because this has everything to do what Christ was trying to rectify,
Right. Right.
and the church did not want him to rectify that,
Right.
and the Pharisees and Sadducees set him up to be killed
Right.
for
Right.
speaking how I'm speaking. Back
Right.
in those days, talking like this, they would stone me.
Right.
For real. If I said any of this, I would die. They would break the Ten Commandments because they said I'm saying evil stuff. So they would
Right.
actually kill me, and they
Right.
would ignore thou shalt not kill,
Right.
because these people in the New Testament that went by the laws of Moses, they said crucify Christ.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
They actually was acting like they were sawed down with the laws of Moses. They actually murdered Christ
In the name of God.
in
Yeah.
the name of God.
Yeah.
The same God said, thou shalt not kill. And the Christian religion teaches that God sent his son to be murdered
Mm.
so you could be saved.
Right.
Now, at that point, they cannot tell me who to sleep with because they are condoning murder. And they said the only way I could get to heaven is through the blood of Jesus, which is lunacy.
This is an interesting conversation, man. Because even Christ was dealing with it, what, in the Mount of Gethsemane, where he was saying, "Not my will, but your will be done," when he was praying to God. So there was some conflict there. He also was dealing with when he was on the cross, saying, asking the Father, "Why have thou forsaken me?" These are some deep things, man. These are some deep things that you have to just continue to study, man. And yeah, it gets deep.
It's basically these people have taken um, Moses and Christ and have defiled it.
Right. This is true.
Taken it, they've abused it, they've defiled it, and they turned it into something that it was never, ever meant to be. Because Moses said, "Thou shalt not commit adultery," but Moses is the descendant of Abraham.
Right. Who committed adultery?
according, but not really, but according to their definition of adultery.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
say that wasn't adultery.
Right.
To me, adultery is evil.
Right. I got you.
That if you look at all the Ten Commandments, they all have to be with an evil intent. Thou shalt not
Right.
kill. Thou shalt not steal.
Right.
Thou shalt not false witness. Just tell a bold-faced lie on somebody and get them killed, get them put in
Right.
electric chair, get them harmed.
Right.
Every commandment, if you look at it, is an extra evil intent.
Right.
And so if you look at adultery, why is that the one where there's not necessarily no evil intent,
Mm.
and they apply it to a sexual intermingling with people that doesn't have an evil intent, but don't apply it to raping children and having sex with animals. So
Right.
adultery is being misapplied
Mm.
to a full-grown adults deciding to have sex, and intentionally overlooked when it comes to pedophilia,
Right.
rape.
Molestation. Right. Yeah.
Nobody's calling that adultery.
Right. Right. It's interesting, man. I'm gonna have to do some more research in the etymologies of those words, man. That is that perspective you gave me is very interesting.
Yeah, because I just use common sense and I look at the Ten Commandments, and the Ten Commandments, they all deal with cruelty and the
They
evil
do.
intent. And then
Yeah.
I look at adultery, and then I think about sex. And this is how I do things unintelligently. I do it regular, like, okay, sex. And I look at all the different types of sex and I put them in order.
Right.
Okay, married, you get married, you have sex. That's the best. Two
Right.
adults, consensual sex. What's at the bottom of the list?
Right.
Molesting kids, rape,
Right. Right.
bestiality. So which one would be adultery? The ones at the top of the list or the ones at the bottom of the list?
Right. Right. Right.
Right? And you don't see, you know why the Catholic Church don't say having sex with children is adultery?
Right.
They're gonna tell
Right.
you, they're gonna tell you having sex out of marriage is adultery, my brother.
Right.
With all due respect, Holy Father, you fucking all the little boys at the church. See, this is why Christ was murdered.
Right.
Because they were talking double talk and they was trying to apply sins to something over here
Right.
and hide the sins over here.
Right.
Try to
True.
say, yeah,
Right.
yeah. These Pharaoh killed Pharaoh because he had sex with a woman he wasn't married.
Mhm.
Well, what about thou shalt not kill? The hell with thou shalt not kill. Kill him. You know, wait a minute. Wait, you're going to kill me because I broke one of the commandments, and you're going to break the commandment to kill me for what you.
To uphold the commandment. Right.
All
Right.
right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. 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 Right.
So what else?
Interesting, bro. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, I guess so. But definitely with young people,
Yeah.
I would advise them not to be having random sex.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right.
dangerous out here, man. It's dangerous out here with everything that's going on, and these diseases and stuff. It's risky. It's very risky.
I would definitely, because adultery could also be, you know, you're 18 and you're having a sex with a 36-year-old man. You don't know him from
Right.
a can of paint. So definitely, we definitely have to tell our children to really be very careful just having random sex.
Yeah.
Random sex is no good.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
absolutely no good. And this is
Yeah.
why people used to really court and really wait till they get to know each other and get married
Right.
before they had sex.
Yeah.
Right. That's why people used to do that, for reasons of sexual diseases, for reason of finding out who this person is, spending time together to know who you're marrying. Because even if you get married, if you didn't spend time to know who this person is, I mean, you basically doing a adultery with a marriage license, because the whole point is to know who you're marrying,
Right.
to get to know them, right?
Right.
And so
And
she said,
that's where the courting comes in at, man, where like you said, like our parents and stuff used to do, they used to court and get to know the people, man, and see what type of family they came from. And that's hard now because our families are so fractured, man. You don't know where people coming from. So
I
like
was,
me and you, both of us came from two-parent families.
yeah,
A lot of what you're dealing now, man, they're coming from families that's a single parent household. So what went on in that household? Either male or female, were the children protected? You know, were they abused and stuff? So it gets very tough, man. It gets very tough. Yeah.
my parents' marriage was based off of the abuse of Black people, really was
Right.
the foundation of their unity.
Right.
Their unity was based off of the foundation of getting a home together, raising children together, providing for their children. Their
Right.
marriage was based off of more than just love.
Right.
Their marriage was based off of survival,
Right.
right? So Ivy says, can we bring love back into having sex? Well, the word is we. Like, what is love?
Right.
And how do I know if a woman loves me?
Mm.
Because just because she says she loved me, that does not mean she loved me.
Right.
So when you use the word love, Ivy, there's no measuring stick for love.
Right.
Many times people been stabbed in the back by their best friends, their families, and their loved ones.
Exactly.
So how can you know if somebody loves you?
The only way, in my perspective, man, is how they treat you in all the situations that they deal with you in. Um, the fruit is going to show at some point. Now, there are situations where people can catch you off guard, catch you off guard, and they blindside you with some type of act that they did against you, stabbed you in the back, whatever. But I truly believe at some point there are going to be some type of red flags. And it's up to us to try to recognize those things, if we can. But there are certain situations you may not see it. But I believe there's sometimes they're going to be, I'll say most of the time they're going to be some type of fruit. But the thing with love and relationship, a lot of times we're so infatuated with a person we don't see those love signs. We just they see those red flags. They can't do anything wrong during that so-called dating period or whatever. So we ignore red flags. But to me, in my experience, you can only know what people show you at the end of the day. At the end of the day, and their fruit is going to show at some point. So
Good answer. So, do we have any more questions for the brother? I guess we can try to get to know a person. You can only know what they show you. You can only know what they show you, and the
yeah,
idea of finding the perfect person could mean dating a lot of people.
right,
How many people you gonna date?
yeah,
Before you find what you think is that person, and people really ain't gonna show you who they are
right,
until you're actually in the relationship.
right, yeah,
So I say to people that are married and it worked, you didn't do anything. You just was fortunate.
right,
You didn't do a damn thing. You just got lucky. You might think you did something. Take it from me. You were just fortunate, you know?
right,
You were just
right.
fortunate. And some people are not fortunate. And some people that think they're fortunate find out they're not because people fall out of love.
This is true. This is
People
true.
fall out of love. People go through midlife crisis. People go through things.
Right, right,
Why do I say Jesus and not Yahshua? Because I always use words where people know who I'm talking about. So I
right,
don't say Al-Kebulan, I say Africa. I don't say Yahshua, I say Jesus because most
right,
people, it's all about communication. It's not about using the right word. It's about
right,
using the word to communicate so people know who you're talking about. So if I say Jesus, they know I'm talking about Yahshua.
right. Yep.
Right?
Meet reaching the masses where they
Re-
are.
Reaching the masses and using the word so they can understand. I used to do that, Ivy. I used to use different words. And I'd be like, so you all got to do with Yahshua. And they'd be like, who is Yahshua? And I'd be, Yahshua is Jesus. Or I'd
Right,
be like, you all, we need to return our Kebulan. And they say, oh, what is our Kebulan? And I have to say Africa. So I
right.
might as well have said Africa. I still ain't. So I said, I might as well just say Africa. I'm going to stop saying Al-Cubulan. They don't know what the hell Al-Cubulan is, and I'm still saying Africa.
Right, 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 right.
Right? Right? And my fam is Catholic, and they always argue that Jesus told Peter to build his church. and whatnot. Christ told Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan."
Yeah.
Folks need to catch up because his name matters. Well, I mean, his name really don't matter because you said Joshua, and his name was Joshua ben Yosef, but that don't
Right.
matter. It really don't. It really don't. Like, to be honest with you, Christ really don't matter. The only thing matters is how are you living.
Right.
You're not righteous based on what you know about Christ, and you're only righteous. Well, how are you living?
How you living?
How
Your
are you?
liberty. Yep.
How are you living? All of that, God's not going to say, "Oh, you can't come to heaven because you didn't say the right name." We're
Right.
not doing all that.
Right.
Religion is no good because the principles of all the prophets were how do you treat each other.
Right.
That was always the principle.
Yep. Yeah.
What if y'all have the same morals and principles? How you don't know what nobody got? That's what I'm trying to tell you, G. Rod.
Yep.
You don't. It might seem like it. It might seem like you got the same morals and principles until your husband come home and say, "I don't want to be with you no more."
Right.
Or until the phone rings one day and it's a woman on the phone saying, "He been with me, bitch." Right? And so, yeah, everything's good until it's not good no more.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Everything's good is not till it's not good anymore. So take it from me. I'm about to be 66. And I'm telling you is that, you know, you really don't know nobody.
Yeah.
The only person you know is you.
Right.
It's the only person you can vouch for.
Yeah.
That's why only one person get in the coffin. Why your wife don't get in there with you.
Yeah.
Why your children don't get in there.
Yeah.
See, when it all come down, what you eat is going to determine, you got to feed yourself. You got to eat right. You got to
Yeah.
exercise. You got to live in a righteous way.
Right.
You got to carry yourself upful and
Yep.
hopefully that everybody else do. But your children going to do what they want to do. Your mate's going to do what's in their heart. And
Yep.
then if you're righteous and then your mate is righteous and then you live together a full life, in the Bible, they call that blessed. You're
Yep.
blessed.
Blessing.
That's a blessing. And a blessing, y'all don't know what a blessing means. Okay? It's a blessing. If you marry and you're a husband and wife and y'all stay together the whole time, stop thinking you did something. You didn't do anything. You are what we call blessed.
This is true. This is
That's
true.
yeah, you're blessed. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
regular folks call lucky. And so if you're blessed, be glad to be blessed. It's a good thing.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. But stop thinking everybody's going to be blessed because
Mm.
it doesn't work like that.
That's deep. That's deep.
Everybody's not going to have that particular blessing.
That's
Many,
interesting.
because at the
That's
end of
interesting.
the end of the day, in my relationships, there was only one purpose, and that was so these other people could come into the world. That's it.
Be fruitful and multiply. Right.
The only purpose was the children. That was
Mm.
it. And many times I was in a relationship only for that. You got to
Mm.
understand that uh, two of my children's mothers are dead. So let's put it into perspective. My oldest daughter's mother passed away when she was a baby. My youngest son's mother died from cancer. So the idea of this long marriage, I mean, if you're going to be alive, so there's a lot to this thing of relationships.
It's a lot. It's a lot to it. It's a lot to it. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have friends that have been married to women and maybe a son was killed
Right.
and relationship was over
Yeah.
because the wife was gone basically.
Yeah.
Just, she lost a child and he didn't have a wife anymore.
Right.
All
Right.
she do is cry all the time. She doesn't want to have sex. She's not attentive to him. She's just a shell of herself.
Right. Right.
So it's a lot to two people living together
Yeah.
that is not like what religion just tells you.
Right. Yeah.
It's deeper than just a religious concept. So
Right.
you definitely want to have long-term relationships
Yeah.
if
Definitely.
possible. If you can get a relationship and it works out and you all get along and you can build a family and you got a strong love, then no, you don't want to commit fornication, which is what? Cheating on your wife
Right.
or cheating on your husband.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But fornication, you ain't got to be the one to fornicate. The other person can fornicate. Now what?
Mm.
Now what? You gonna stay with them?
Yeah.
So it's a personal thing. It's not a judgmental thing that I can judge you or tell
Right.
you.
Right.
These laws and these ideas are self-initiated for
Right.
yourself, and they can't be taught as a couple.
Right.
So you become a strong marriage when you both are dealing with yourselves and you both are being righteous yourselves. Now,
Right.
to say that I can find a person that's going to do that, that's if that was the case, we wouldn't have no sin.
Right.
When
Yeah.
because we have to pick out of all these people in the world, and you know
It's
how
rough, bro. Like you say, a lot of us are blessed to find the right person, you know.
typically
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
small places, Mississippi, Alabama, they're going to stay married longer than Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, typically.
Why do you say that, Pharaoh? Because there's
Because
options.
no, not because of options, because there's more of a need to work together when you come up in Mississippi, when you come up in Alabama. There's more of a need, there's more of a feeling of that's your person. Like, yeah, options have something to do with how you look at that person when you hook up with that person. So if I
Right.
go to Alabama and marry a girl, we'll stay married the whole time
Right.
because her mentality is different. Her sense of need, her sense of building is different
Right.
because it's a more lonelier environment.
Mm.
You can't just find another man or another woman in those places like that.
No.
Not
No.
like that.
No. Uh-uh.
Not like that. So typically, the marriages are going to last longer. They get married earlier. They stay together forever,
Right.
typically, and it's based on the environment.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's based on the environment. The mentality of people in the women in those areas have a different mentality than the women in the bigger cities,
Right.
and the men have a different mentality too. So
Right.
there's more stronger family structure. A relationship is built off of the need to be together, not
Mm.
off of just the love. It's the need. My mother and father stayed together until they died because of the need
Right.
to battle white supremacy, the need to get together and leave Alabama and come to Chicago, the need to get a home, the need to raise your children, the
Right.
need to send your children to school. All these things kept them preoccupied with their goals
Right.
rather than with each other.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's what built the structure. And when you
And it
don't,
seems like it's the exact opposite now. The
it is.
goal to me, it seems like it's more in each other face and what each other have,
Yes,
instead of a goal of raising a family, staying together, and reaching a goal together. It's
exactly.
more what you got and what you bring to the table and what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, my dad and mom didn't go to the club
No.
when they was young. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My mother didn't have a bunch of weirdo friends.
No.
We didn't have a bunch of relatives in the house every week. I
Right.
mean, my father's brother, Uncle Oscar, was his brother, closest brother, and Uncle Oscar only came to visit us maybe once a year,
Right.
and we would go visit Uncle Oscar once a year.
Right.
We wasn't any. Uncle Oscar had my aunt Earlene and my cousin Tony and Gordon, and my mother and father had me and Chandra, and they were busy doing their family thing.
Right.
They wasn't running around, my brother, my brother, my brother, my brother. Now y'all some weirdos. I trying to marry you. I got to see your sisters all the time. I got
Right.
to see your family all the time. How could you build a family when you still want to be in a family?
Exactly.
To build
Exactly.
a family, you have to break away from your family. I say it all the time. You cannot be a son and a father.
This is true.
You cannot be a daughter and a mother. You're gonna have to pick.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm
And the
saying?
scriptures back that up. They say he should leave his mother and father and cleave into his
Right.
leave them.
Leave them. So right there, that makes it hard to find a woman or a man because some of these people they just still cling to that.
They
Now
don't want to
then,
leave.
and now those people are clung. Now they're attached like lint to the relationship, and then they bring their baggage into your mate
Right.
and doubts into your mate. And there you
Yep.
have it. Okay, keep talking to him, brother. Bring up other things you want to talk about. Give me a
No,
minute.
man. So this was good. This is really this was really good. Like I was telling y'all before, man. Me and Pharaoh get into some very interesting conversation, man. And like you said, reason. Even the scripture said, "Come, let us reason together." So it ain't about bickering with each other, man. It's about trying to get a better understanding of what the scriptures say, what they're not saying, and go back and do your research. Everybody got to go and do their research on these different things, man. And I'll even say pray too, man. Pray, because to me, praying is not only for you talking to the Most High; it's for you as well, for inspiration, for you to remind yourself. These are some tough questions that you have, and to motivate yourself to do the research and to do your due diligence. If you really trying to live a righteous life, you're gonna ponder these things. You're gonna ponder fornication. You're gonna ponder adultery. You're gonna ponder blasphemy. You're gonna ponder these things if you really trying to live a righteous life. So to ask a question or to ponder something that somebody says, there's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't feel guilty about that at all. And I'll say that to the people that's in the church too.
Because people were
Study to
saying
show yourself approved, like the scriptures say.
people are saying that Christ was hitting Mary Magdalene.
That's a thing that's said too. Yes.
That's
Yes.
what they said. They said it's more than what y'all want to admit.
This is a theory. This is a theory.
And they say that he turned her life around.
So the scripture said he was tempted at every point. So that means sexually too. He was a man. But the scriptures don't really go into that. So these are things, these are some heavy things, man, and we shouldn't be scared of them. That's the whole thing. I think a lot of times we get scared of these things and we lose the human aspect. He was the son, only begotten son of God, but he was in flesh. So he dealt with human things. He was tempted. That was one of the first things that happened to him. He was tempted of these different things from Satan. So
Well, the thing is, He's the son of God, but God wasn't married to his mother. God got him pregnant, right? And she was married, right? Oh, that's what happened. God got a pregnant woman. God got a married woman pregnant, according to the story.
Right.
Okay, what y'all think about that?
It's interesting.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Okay. All right. All right. I mean, according to Christianity, God is a sinner. God committed adultery. I mean, let's be honest. She was married to Joseph, and
Right.
she had God's baby.
Right.
What y'all think about that? See, they would stone me. I would have been hung and crucified me. Oh boy, they would crucify me because I'm not. They're crucified, but that's okay.
Right. Right.
Okay, Joseph married Mary after she was pregnant. Okay, y'all against that
Right.
because she's a whore, ain't she? Where's her husband? If she's married and Joseph was with her,
Right.
hold on, now let's get Joseph was with her. They might not have been married, but Joseph was with her when she
Right.
conceived that baby.
Right.
Okay, so Joseph was having sex with her before marriage. Or what? I mean, what happened in that situation? Joseph was with her. She got pregnant. Joseph believed that she had cheated on him.
Right.
So how did she cheat on him unless Joseph was hidden that already? Let's break all that down. Let's really let's really look into that. So Joseph, because if they wasn't a couple and then she came up pregnant, Joseph would have just went and talked to another woman, wouldn't he?
So let me read what it say.
Okay.
So Matthew chapter 1, verse 18. It said, now the birth of Christ was on this wise, when as his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man and not willing to make a public example, was minded to put her away privily. So basically, I guess he was going to get divorced. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit.
So they told him to marry her?
Yep. They said, don't put her away.
Okay, so then he was married to a woman and then found out she was pregnant. So he married her before she was pregnant. That's what it seems like. So she was pregnant, but then they got married before he knew she was pregnant. Then he found out she was pregnant.
Right.
And then he was going to leave her.
Christ got an interesting story.
Now God didn't marry her. God was supposed to marry her, according to what the Christians tell me. Because if God got her pregnant, that wasn't his wife, that's adultery. According to what some of y'all was saying. God committed adultery. I'm just saying. Am I right or am I wrong? Did not God commit adultery? That's not his wife. He had sex with her. They didn't date. What y'all think? Did God have adultery with Mary according to the laws which y'all say God tell me? Which proves that that's not adultery.
Right.
Because
Interesting.
if having sex with a person you're not married to is adultery, then God committed adultery.
Interesting.
He didn't have sex, but he got a woman pregnant he wasn't married to. I'm just saying. Ivy, they didn't have sex, but he got her pregnant. I'm
Deep
just
conversation, bro. Deep.
that that's why they used to want to look at me crazy at the church and at the religious school, at the Lutheran school, because I would ask these kind of questions and nobody can answer them. They would just be
Right.
like, uh, and so I had to go start reading on my own because they would be like, I don't know. I never,
Right.
I never
And
thought.
sometimes, and that is nothing wrong with that. Saying I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because to me, you're not gonna know everything. Some
No, you're
things
not
you
going to.
just not gonna understand.
Right. And then be God that told me to ask them that because God said they lying, Pharaoh. Ask them this.
Mm,
God be like, they lying, Pharaoh. Ask them this. Because who's telling me,
mm,
Lucifer not telling me to ask these questions? Who's giving me the inspiration to ask these questions?
right.
All right. So it's the same thing like Christ. I'm Christ-like. So when Christ came with the message, because it wasn't the message that they said God said,
Right.
they killed them
Right. Right. Right.
because they have made their own interpretation of what God has said.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
they are living off of their interpretation of what God has said. But I'm telling you right now, a sin is something that's negative and has an evil intent.
Mm,
Having sex with a nice looking woman that you like and it's consensual sex is not a sin. Having sex with children, rape, animals, somebody that's married, somebody sneaking off on your wife or sneaking off on your husband, that's adultery.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Okay, that's adultery.
Yeah. So let me
Consensual.
ask you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Ask me a
No. So
question.
let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Staying with Christ, healing. Um, why do you think, or do you think there is healing like there used to be back when Christ was? How married healed, when Christ healed. They said they were even healed in the book of Acts. Do you think that is still happening now? And
Yeah,
if not, why you think it's not happening?
yeah, it's happening.
Mm.
Yaki do it all the time.
Hmm.
Yaki is a holy man. He's healing people constantly. He's ridden
Right,
diseases and all that, and they trying to shut him down.
right,
There's men all in India, all over the world that are healing people.
right,
The news
right.
media is not showing it.
Got you.
And then you got to understand people come to Yaki and are
Right,
willing to listen to Yaki. People came to Christ and said, heal me.
right.
So one reason people not getting healed, they don't want to.
Mm.
They want to eat their pork. They cool with having diabetes.
Right,
They don't want to be healed. How can I heal you unless you come to me and ask me to heal you? So these people were coming to Christ
right,
asking to be healed and be healed, right?
right,
And that's still going on today. All over the world, there are healers
right,
that are healing people. Yaki is the perfect example
right.
that are ridding diseases out of people. But what
Mm.
they don't tell you is Christ used herbs,
Right,
and he was administering herbs, and he was administering to show you how to use the power of your mind
right.
to heal yourself.
And what I was thinking about before, man, I think some of the stuff, like you say, I don't think the media is showing it, but I think a lot of the stuff, I know I'm very interested into healing, but I think, like you said, first you got to heal yourself. I think you got to start there first, healing yourself. eating the proper foods, eating the proper herbs, drinking the correct stuff. Um, but we have so many distractions, and I think that's a big part of it, because there's so many distractions, and we're not in nature like they used to be, and not able to meditate on things and try different things that would lend us to healing,
True.
And I think that's why, some of us may not be able to heal or even see the healing because we have so many distractions.
Right. Now, here's the thing, people. You must understand that everything is intensified since Christ.
Mm,
Christ is the healer, right?
right.
If Christ wants to make you well, what do Lucifer want to do?
Make you sick.
So if Christ is there trying to heal and they murder him, what is Lucifer going to do? Intensify what?
The sickness.
Making you okay. So now that you took this Christ out of the world, now you got Lucifer. Now you got certain things that are designed to do the opposite.
Right.
Okay. So this is why it's not the fact it's not healing. They have intensified making you sick.
Right.
They
Right.
even given you a pill called a devil.
Right.
They just took the E out.
Right.
And
Yep.
so Lucifer has taken over religion and all that. All of that has been conquered.
Right.
You're living in a Luciferian world. Just look, they said God sent his son for you to kill him
Right.
so you could be saved.
Mm,
And then you wonder why you stab your brother in the back to get ahead. Well, that's the whole principles of Christianity, that somebody got to die for you to do better. The whole Christian concept is a Luciferian concept. When Christ was taken off the planet, they intensified
Right.
evil.
Right.
And you all are living in what we call the last days.
The last days.
If
Yep.
righteousness was powerful, this would not be the last days.
Right.
This is the last days because righteousness is under attack
Right.
and evil is running rampant.
Right.
So making people sick is more dominant than healing right now.
Right. Right. Right.
Basically,
Mm,
it's more dominant. And it gets back to sex. Sex will make you sick
right.
because these people got diseases and they're committing all type of stuff. And now you're sleeping with an adulterer.
Right.
You're not sleeping with an honest girl or an honest man.
Right.
So the idea of not having sex is not just about not having sex. You get married because you get married when? After you know each other.
Right.
So the idea is not to have sex until you know
Mm-hmm.
what you're dealing with.
Mm,
So that's why just sex is no good.
right.
Just having sex because you don't know who you're having sex with.
Right.
And then that's what leads to marriage.
Right.
So then once you find out who you're having sex with, once you find out that before you have sex, who is this person, that's what builds a strong marriage or a marriage. I can't say strong because a marriage is just like going to the gym. So if a marriage, if you don't work out, you don't go to the gym, the marriage go in.
Yep. You definitely got to work on it. Definitely
You
got to
know,
work on it.
it's a
Yeah.
constant job. And
Yep.
children help keep a marriage together.
Right. Yeah.
But when the children leave out the house, then you got your work cut out for you.
That's why I tell people, man, you have your children, but you got to make sure you keep your connection with your spouse. Um, because like you said, at the end of the day, if you all in with your children and haven't worked on your relationship at all, the children leave, you sitting there looking at a stranger. If you haven't built, like you said, isolated yourself, built your family, and like you said, really get to know your mate, um, is very important. Yeah,
Yeah, the key to marriage is isolation. You said the word. If
right.
any of you are not isolated, and if any of you are too busy with other adults, then the marriage will fail.
Yep. Because my dad always told me, don't you have no whole bunch of men in your house. Period. And my
No
dad
men
never
in
had no whole bunch of men in his house. No men.
no men in their
Yeah.
house, and your phone can't be ringing with all these people in your wife's ear or in your husband's ear. And it has to be a tight relationship. It can't be no bunch of friends. If your wife got too many friends, dump her, because she ain't gonna make it. She ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Too many people in her ear. If your husband
Yep.
got too many friends hanging out with the boys, you didn't marry a man, because the men don't hang out with boys.
Nope.
If your wife's hanging out with the girls, she's not a woman, because women don't hang out with girls. Women is women.
Exactly.
So as soon as your wife says girls' night out, you're committing pedophilia because your wife's a girl. And you're
That's a
supposed to be
that's a red flag.
yeah, you're supposed to have sex. You're supposed to have sex with a woman, not no
Right.
girl. Girls' night out, boys' night out, right there. Just those terms
Yep.
are signs of immaturity. Now,
Exactly.
let's
Exactly.
talk about Christ, bro. Now, all over the world, they
Hmm.
have a black Christ. This is the Philippines.
Right.
Russia has revealed their black Christ.
Yep.
So, what do you think about that as far as black people looking at Christ as themselves and looking at themselves as the really the direct family of Christ? Do you think that has an effect on us not knowing that?
It does, man. I think from before, like in my family, man, they had pictures of a European Christ. So that came up in our families, man. Pictures on the wall. They had a picture of a European Christ. They had Martin Luther King, and they had uh, John Kennedy. Those are the
Mhm.
three things on the wall, and those big spoons and forks that used to hang on the
Yep,
wall.
yep. Same in my house. Exact
Yeah.
same stuff. Yes.
So that those images, just like Sun Ra said, man, those images and statues, they play they played a big number on our psyche, man, and how we viewed ourselves. And it is almost as like a block that we don't want to accept that Christ looked like black people. He was from Africa, what they call Israel, but it's right across the way. That's Africa. He went, they hid in Egypt and Kemet. So he was an African, but it's a thing that's mentioned that it doesn't matter what he looked like, but it does. That's a misrepresentation um, of Christ when he was here on earth, and he's coming back. So what you gonna see what you gonna say when you see him? He gonna look like you.
I've
So
I've
um,
had I've had friends tell me that
mhm,
older racist white people would be in a hospital dying, and they would talk to Christ, and they would see a black Christ and die in their sleep.
wow,
It would kill them.
wow, from the shop.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. The slave mentality has really hindered us, man, from really embracing ourselves for generations. I think your generation started it, Um, and I know for the most part, my generation has accepted, and rejected a lot of the lies that were told about Christ and just about history in general. They've rejected it. But I think it's to the next level now, and hopefully I can have an impact on that, where we bring it to the church. I bring it to the church. Hey, Christ was black. He looked like you. You're actually the Hebrew Israelites. You're the people of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the next step. We got the education from your generation. Now my generation is our generation to implement this information that we know is true to the church, to the masses, and it's a pride thing, I think the negative connotation of black has been ingrained in us so much, man, that we don't even want to accept Christ is black, because black has always so-called been negative, and it's just done a number. So it's our responsibility now to get that education out and say, you are from a royal priesthood, you Haile Selassie represent that. I think that needs to be preached more about Haile Selassie and actually what he represented in the modern age and what he actually talked about. You got to read some of those speeches that he had, you know what I'm saying? And he broke stuff down himself. You just look at his life. It's amazing, man. So we have examples. The Most High has given us examples of different things and what lineage we come from, the Hebrew Israelite lineage, the Kemetic lineage. All that's connected, all there together.
Some Jamaican Rastas or blacks born in Jamaica that are Rastas, they don't like the fact that Haile Selassie looked to Christ, which is retarded, because Christ is his relative.
Right.
What the hell? Like, these brothers don't be studying. Like, that's his relative. If he's a direct descendant of Solomon, he's from the lineage of Christ.
Exactly.
Christ was a descendant of Solomon.
Right.
But here goes the crazy thing. How is Christ a descendant of Solomon if that's God's baby?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But at that time, they said the baby looked just like David.
Like David, right. Yep.
Exactly like David. So then the question is, was David God's baby too? Like, what's really going on?
It's deep, man. It's deep when you really look at it. It's very deep.
And is God a spirit? Or did God actually hit Mary for real?
Well, they said she was a virgin.
Yeah. That's what they say.
Virgin Mary. Yeah.
That's what they say.
So I think you're dealing with a supernatural thing now.
Possibly.
Yeah. Possibly, I think you're dealing with a supernatural thing.
Because we could be dealing with a supernatural thing, or we could be dealing with stories that were told and got wrote down and were passed down. And we're just going with the story as it was passed down. Most of the stuff is the fact that I try to teach black people to read it as a story, as for what it is as a story, and realize that it's a story that was passed down. And then look into it from that perspective. This is what was said.
Right.
And then that's valuable in itself.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
As far as taking it as factual, how can you?
Yeah. Everybody got to make their decision about that.
How can you? You're trying to take a story that was told to you and you're trying to build a religious mentality off of a story with no proof, no nothing.
Right.
Something that was edited down and something that was put together by the Romans and Peter and Paul.
Right.
Because when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, It don't say none of that stuff the rest say.
No.
All Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John is repeat scenes that they actually saw.
Right. Yep.
It's Paul the one start laying out Christianity.
Yep.
And that's questionable because Paul was wicked. Peter and Paul were tax collectors for the Romans.
Right.
That used to abuse black people.
Right.
And so the concept, she said, why did God chose a virgin? What I'm saying, Ivy, is Diddy.
Right.
I mean, hearsay. That's what the story says.
Right.
That's all I can take it as. I can't take that as factual. At what point is that factual? Because they said this is a holy Bible and they made a religion, then that makes this factual. I mean, you tell me.
Right.
I definitely believe Christ was here, but I don't believe what they say about Christ after they murdered him. My beef is after they murdered him, all that stuff they said after the fact of the matter, that stuff is suspicious and questionable because it's made up by the murderers. As soon as they killed Christ, Peter said he had a vision from God, and we was eating pork, and we was sitting at the table with the Gentiles.
Right.
So all Christianity that we practice today is made up after they murdered Christ.
Right.
Christ didn't make none of this up.
No.
So now when I'm following Christianity, am I following Christ? Absolutely not.
Right.
Because Christ was dead already.
Right.
Think about it.
Yep. You got to read what he did. You got to read what he did.
You got to be Christ-like.
Right.
You have to do what Christ did.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And Christ was trying to show you how to use both sides of your brain, your God side and your Eve side, to do what they call miracles.
Right.
And before he could, because one day I was thinking about all this disease and stuff, and I said to the Most High, I said, God, why is so many people sick and got disease and all of that? Couldn't that not happen? And God told me, if they would have let Christ live, he would have got rid of all diseases on the earth. And that was a heavy response, bro. And I'm thinking, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So then I start thinking, imagine if I'm a Roman and I got to listen to my boss, Pontius Pilate and them, but my wife is blind and I'm a white Roman, but I keep hearing there's this black dude that can make my wife see.
Right.
And I can't take my wife to him because I'm a Roman.
Right.
I always think about those people. Think about the people that the brother didn't get to heal, how they felt when they killed that man.
Right. That's a heavy.
Think about that.
That's a heavy guilty conscience.
And sadness because now, and anger.
Right.
Because this man could have saved my wife and y'all killed him.
Right.
Think about all the people that was waiting to see him. All the people that was and stuff.
Yep, that saw him firsthand doing miracles.
And was going to go see him and bring their son. And you got your son and you bringing him to town. And you say, I'm taking my son to see the healer. And they say they just killed him.
Wow.
See, these are the stories I want to make movies. And this is where I want to go with it. I want to go that way with it because think about that. Think about they took away somebody that was saving lives.
Right.
and
Right.
tell you that he had to die. Because I do not want to go to heaven on Christ's blood. Period.
Mm.
Nah, nah. I ain't trying to hear that. Christ did not die for me. Christ died because y'all murdered him. The word die is bogus. Christ did not die. Christ was murdered. If my son get cancer, he died. If my son could die from tuberculosis, my son could die from a stroke or a heart attack. But if you shoot my son didn't die, you murdered him. You killed him. So when they say Christ died, that's disingenuous. Christ was murdered.
Right.
And
Interesting.
and taken off the cross and put in a cave, and you still got him on the cross. Why you got Christ on the cross?
Right.
They took him off the cross, put him in a cave, and then he was walking around.
Right.
So why don't you have Christ walking around with big wounds in his side and holes in his hand, like what doubting Thomas allegedly saw?
Right. Right.
No, you got Christ still on the cross.
Right. Which I've always found strange, because he's not on the cross anymore. So why are you still making these crosses with him on there?
Because if you're a Roman and you want to take the religion from Peter, you kill Peter, you take a statue of Jupiter and say that's Peter, you stack your holidays, you stack Santa Claus on top of Christmas, you stack the Easter Bunny on top of Easter.
Right.
And now I'm a Roman and I killed him, but I want this religion. Now, how can I take this religion when I killed him? I got it. God sent him to die so you can go to heaven. And if God sent him to die and I helped him die, I'm a good guy. Because God sent him to die, which means the killer was working for God. That's a fact. If God sent Christ to die for you to be saved, then whoever killed him was working for God. That's the absolute fact. Because he had to die, right? And for him to die, somebody got to kill him, right?
Right.
And that person killed him so I can go to heaven. Now, Christians don't, like I said, I can relate because I would have been on the cross next to him or somewhere in that row. I definitely would have killed me because I said, blasphemy. Okay. Because this is a fact about it. So until we reach that conclusion, we're basically following the Romans and the Romans' teachings and the Romans' mentality. And the reason they got Christ on the cross is because it's symbolic of them having the black man pinned down and having black people captured and having you stuck.
Right.
So when the Pope comes out with that black man and he's doing this means fuck you too. You know that, right? So when he comes out with this black man, think about a white dude coming out with who we know as a black man nailed to a cross, and he's in Rome and he's with the people that did it.
Yeah.
Think of the satanic visuals of what's really going on.
Yeah.
The symbolism. Like, look. Eat the body and drink the blood of Christ, which is vampirism. They said, when I went to religious school and what they teach in theology,
right,
is that really, when you go to communion, a lot of Christians don't know this, that magically that wine turns into the real blood of Christ and the wafer turns into the real body. This is what they taught me to be a minister. To be a minister.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking, what? Like, no.
Right.
So this is what they're doing. This is how they took Christ And instead of teaching what Christ taught, the Romans defiled it and
Right.
made a religion out of it, and then took us. And when they took us, they basically had us uh, reading a book that didn't even have all the scriptures in it.
Right.
They had
Right.
us reading what they call the slave Bible.
Right.
And the slave Bible was real thin. It wasn't thick like the other Bible. And then
Right.
they taught us Christianity
Right.
and brought us into the false concept to accept the fact they murdered our brother
Mm.
on
See?
Friday the 13th. And when they murdered him on Friday the 13th, the righteous black people said Friday the 13th is bad luck.
Right.
And the white Romans said it's Good Friday.
Good Friday. Right.
Why you murder somebody
And call
and
it good.
call it good? And Christ was number 13.
Right.
And now they say 13 is bad luck.
Right.
So all of these things is where we want to get the Black Christian church into the life of Christ, not the death of Christ.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's some hard work, bro. Good luck with that. You got your work. For me, I see a brother like you, I see your future as opening your own church.
Mm. Mm.
You know, because other than doing what I'm doing, that's what I would be doing. I would have a church,
Right.
like the first church of the living Christ.
Right. Wow.
And I would be preaching this stuff I'm preaching.
Right.
And I would be preaching eat right. I'd be preaching stop mistreating your brother and your sister.
Right.
Stop sinning, repent. Stop sinning, repent, and trying to use Christ as a credit card.
Right.
Because Christ said, go and sin no more. That's what he told the whore. And
Yep.
so I see your future is probably getting your own church
Mm.
and
Interesting.
freeing people and freeing
Right.
people with the facts and getting them into the life of Christ.
Right. Right. Right.
Because that's what we need to be into, the life of Christ. What was Christ really come here for, according to what we read? Came
Right.
here to teach us to live together, to
Right.
take care of ourselves, to be healthy,
Right.
right? To live a righteous life, to live a good life,
Right.
to be nice to people.
Yep. To be decent, basically.
She said Christ is alive. Yeah, I mean, Christ is alive, but you know, you can't try to kill somebody and overlook at the fact that you tried to kill him just to say he's alive. That makes you overlook the attempted murder. Christ is not
Right.
alive because they wanted him to be alive. Christ is alive because he was the Son of the Most High.
Right.
But in terms of human, they murdered him.
Yeah.
They murdered him. Christ died and arose.
Right.
Christ did not stay alive. If you know Christianity, Christ died. So
Yep.
she said Christ is alive, but church said Christ died for your sin. So which it doesn't say Christ is alive
Mm.
in the Christian church. So Christ was unalived and then came back to life.
Right.
In other words, for you all, Christ was a very powerful brother.
Yeah.
And the Luciferians were trying to force him to use his powers based on them.
Right.
Christ was using his powers on his own accord. What they wanted to do was to force him to use his power when they tell him.
Right.
The first time you see where Lucifer came up there when he was fasting.
Right. Up in the
Say,
desert.
yeah, jump, because your
Right.
angels said that they'll save you. Try to tempt him. The
Yep.
next time, when they nailed him to the cross, they were trying to force him to use his powers.
To come down from the cross.
To
Yep.
come down from the cross.
Right.
The brother was so deep He died.
Right.
Let him put him in a cave and came back when he got ready,
Right.
which spooked everybody.
Right.
Okay. Like
Right.
that is some of the most powerful story. The brothers actually died and they said, all that. He could do miracles and all that. And a couple of days later, everybody see him walking around. Could you imagine
Right.
how scared those Romans were? Terrified.
Right. Right.
That's the part of the story nobody tells.
Yeah, they're not talking about that at all.
That Christ still did what he wanted to do and didn't let nobody force him
Yep.
to do it when he wanted them to do it.
And he stayed around for a while.
Legend has it, he's still around.
What'd you say?
People say he's still here.
Oh yeah.
They say that that he was over in India and China, and he let them look in his wound, and that he had his organs were like a silver. They said that his organs were not like human organs; they were some kind of silver metallic. Was his organs?
Right.
That's what they
Which
said.
makes sense because I forgot what scripture it is in the Old Testament where they said none of his bones will be broken or anything.
They said his insides was silver.
Right.
And then he was all over in Africa, China, India after that.
Right.
And that he went up a mountain. And then nobody didn't see him when he went up that mountain. They didn't clarify which mountain. But this is the story from other people.
Other cultures, right.
Other cultures, because a lot of theologians and religious experts say he was Buddha.
Right.
And all those years he was missing. That's why Buddha's got the most statues in the world. Buddha's got more statues than anybody. And so there's some people saying Buddha, some people saying he was Krishna. People, all these different gods, a lot of people saying that was him under the name they called him when he came to their region.
Right. And their interpretation of him. Right.
Yeah. That's what they say. That's what they say.
Wow.
It's a powerful story.
And this is the thing too. He said, and I forgot what scripture that is, where he said, the world won't be, well, the earth won't be destroyed. The world rather won't be destroyed until the gospel is spread all around the world. So it almost sounds like that's what he was doing.
Yeah. And for Christianity to be all around the world and it ain't quite destroyed yet, that means the truth still got to get out here.
Right.
You know, the truth got to get out here. The real truth on what's really going on until we don't accept the murder of Christ, we ain't got there yet.
Right.
You know, because that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And the story of the two thieves is very interesting.
Right.
Because the one thief knew who he was.
Right.
He was like, dude, why you don't get down? It's a powerful story. Like the one thief, like, why you don't get down, dude?
Right. Right.
And get me down too.
Right.
They couldn't understand why, you know, after I heard all you did, you up here letting them do you like that?
Right.
Now, legend also has it that the angels were finna attack.
Right.
That the sky got black and the UFOs was up there.
Yep.
20,000 of them.
Right.
And they say that's who Christ was talking to when he said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In other words, saved you even then, because he was going to kill all y'all out there saying crucify him, all of them would have died.
Yep. Yep. The
Because
angels was coming.
because according to my teaching, Christ is the only nice one in
Right.
the kingdom of the house. Christ, the reason Christ is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven with the gods is because that's the only one. Nobody had that type of forgiveness and that type of patience.
Right.
So this is why even the Most High God humbled himself to Christ,
Right.
because he just can't believe how much shit Christ could take. Me,
Right.
I'm striking your ass with lightning. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. If I'm Christ, y'all would have nailed me to the cross. People would have died. You hear me? I would have made your eyeballs pop out and all that. So this was a whole different person. That's why we call him the Lamb of God,
The Lamb of God. Right.
because nobody cannot believe how much shit he could take with that much power.
With that much power.
With
Right.
that much power to let that all happen
Right.
is incredible.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
why Christ is number one.
Right.
Even his father look at him and say, my son, I can't believe you. I would have killed her. I dropped her. I tried to drown her when I got mad because God crazy. Because God said, God is crazy as hell. God said, okay, after the flood, God said, I'm sorry. Sunrise showed me this. God said, I'm sorry. I will never flood y'all no more. And then he said, but next time I'm going to set y'all on fire. I'm reading it. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What kind of, what? God was like, I will never flood y'all again. But next time, I'm going to burn all y'all up. And I'm like, wow, this God is bipolar for real. That's why
Oh,
you
boy.
can't go to heaven for real. You cannot go to heaven unless you go through Christ,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
God is not forgiving.
Right. Right.
I'm telling you.
He is truly the intercessor. He's given
Yeah,
our perspective,
this
the
is
human's perspective. Yeah.
the human perspective.
Yeah.
That's what that was all about,
Right.
because nobody could understand the human, and somebody had to come, and God had to have somebody born of a human that
Right.
feels pain, that gets hungry, and
Right.
things like that. So that
Right.
because when you go before the Most High, he say, "Why'd you steal that, Pharaoh?" And you say, "I was hungry." God
Right.
don't know what the hell you're talking about. What the hell is hungry?
Right. Right.
So Christ is the one to be like, "Yeah, Daddy, hungry as mud."
Right. Right.
Daddy. When he
Yep.
say it hit different when he get hungry. So Christ the one understand the human experience.
Right.
Christ is the one that felt pain. Sons
Right.
of God don't feel pain.
No.
They don't get hungry.
Nope. Don't get thirsty.
They don't lust for sex.
Right.
They're a
Right.
whole different being.
Right.
Christ was our representative based on when the sons of God had sex with the daughters of men.
Right.
That's us.
Right.
So Christ was God and man like us,
Right.
but not born of a woman as far as her bloodline.
Right.
Because when Christ came out, the way they knew Christ, the reason Joseph really knew that Christ was different, because the baby didn't have no umbilical cord.
Wow.
This is how the wise men and them knew who the baby was. When Mary had the baby just came out.
Wow.
You see, Christ didn't have a navel.
Mm.
Melchizedek ain't got no navel.
Right.
Melchizedek is what? The King of Peace.
King of
Christ is
peace.
what? The Prince of Peace.
Prince of peace. Yep.
Christ didn't have a navel. This is
Right.
how Joseph, this is how when they went and she had the baby, this is how they know, whoa, how did it eat?
Right.
This how they knew the baby was holy.
Right. Right.
It's really some heavy. It's really heavy.
It is. It is.
It's really heavy. It's
Yep.
really heavy. Like somebody got to get out here and teach black people what really happened.
Right.
And
Right.
so Christ was here to teach us how to eat right, how
Right.
to be more healthier. So this is why Christ took the grapes and took the wheat and
Right.
said, "No, I don't do bull blood and bull flesh. This is my body and
Right.
this is my blood." Trying to tell you plant based,
Plant based. Yep.
plant based, eat right,
Yep.
eat what the earth is growing for you.
Right.
That's
Yep.
what the message that they have lost that message with a Luciferian teaching. Now,
Right.
what else you want to talk about, bro? Go into some other things that you wrote down or that you want to mention to the audience.
So let me ask you about this. You've read the Kibra Nagast, right?
Yeah.
Um, I haven't had a chance to read it all the way through yet. Are
Hmm.
there major differences in the Kibra Nagas from Ethiopia um, compared to the Bible that we have here in America?
Yeah, the Kibra Nagas and all those type of books like that are like absurd, like things that ain't mentioned.
Right. Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
it's not so much as different, it's things like the book of Enoch
Right. Right.
on that level.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's things that's not mentioned. It's parts that was not added.
Right. I got you.
You
I
see?
got you.
So
And it's seen just from what I've seen too. They have illustrations, black people in the Kibra Nagas.
yeah, the ones that got pictures got black people in there. Some of them don't have pictures though.
Right. Okay. Okay.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Okay.
Some of them don't have pictures, but yeah, all of the holy books are uh are different.
Right. I
You
got
know,
you.
so all the holy books are different. So all of the holy books people should read.
Right.
You know, people should read all of these readings to be able to get a full understanding of what has been put here on the planet.
Right.
There's a lot of knowledge, right?
Right.
But the Bible is the best one
Right. Exactly.
by far.
Yep. Yep.
By far, the Bible is the best one because the Bible uh lays you can't really understand none of those other books
Right.
if you don't read the Bible.
Got you.
So if you don't read the Bible, your understanding is going to be limited.
Right. Right. Right.
Your historical understanding, you're not going to have no basis to understand the keeper and the gods. You're not going to understand no Osby.
Mm.
You're not going to understand uh, the Buddha, the books that Buddhists have. You're not going to be able to understand the Torah.
Right.
You're not going to be able to understand the Holy Vedas.
Right.
You're not going to be able to understand anything if you don't read this.
Right. Right. Right.
That's going to be the center point for all your overstanding.
Right. 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 Well, look, brother, let's do this. Let's end here,
Okay.
and then we'll continue on. Maybe we'll talk about the keeping the gods and maybe Revelations next time. We'll get into that.
Now, somebody asked a crazy question. What do you advise if a woman wants anal sex?
That ain't nothing but Lucifer right there.
Bro, that's where you boo boo at. So you answer the question yourself.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to have sex where you got waste coming out, right? So just the fact, you know what I'm saying? Any woman that wants that, she probably could have been no telling what happened to her in her life.
Right.
Okay. She could have been molested or anything,
Yeah.
but that's exit only, bro. That's an exit. Okay. That hole is an exit. That's not an enter. That has a sign. Like my butt got a sign on it that says do not enter, bro.
And that's really antichrist, because that's
Yeah,
going against what God and how God said for us to have relations. That's
that is Luciferian, because under the
Luciferian.
Luciferian teaching, you do everything the opposite of God. So you say,
Exactly.
"Thou art not my father, thou art not in heaven, hallowed is not thy name, thy
Right.
kingdom shall not come, thy will not be done." This is how
Right.
you chant, and then you do everything. If God said, "Let a man be with a woman," then you're gonna teach a man be with a man and a woman be with a woman. If God teach that the penis goes in the vagina, you're gonna teach that the penis goes in the butt of another man.
Right.
You're gonna if a God made man and woman, you're gonna teach man can sleep with a dog, a man
Right.
can sleep with an animal. So
Yep.
all of those things is antichrist.
Yep. And they all lead to destruction. All of them.
All of that is antichrist. All of that
Yep.
is disease and pestilence.
Right.
But that's nothing but disease, because you're gonna put your penis in somewhere that's got filth coming out and waste, that your body's kicking out toxic waste, and
Yep.
then that's gonna go into the head of your penis. And then what's gonna happen when that hole gets infected with
Right.
that waste that's coming out? Not to mention, men that are having anal sex have what they call rectal prolapse,
Mm.
where their insides fall out
Yeah.
after the muscles get destroyed, and they're building extensions in hospitals everywhere, and women are starting to have this too, because that's an exit, that's not an interest. When I was a young man in college, in music college, I met a Haitian girl, and this
Mm.
gets back to what Pozi said. You know, you gotta not be trying to sleep with all these people. He ain't lying, because
Yeah.
this girl was a Haitian. I'm trying to sleep with her. I go to her room. She tell me I can't have sex with her in the front unless I have sex with her in the back. Well, this is like 1977. What the
Wow.
hell? What? That
Yeah.
wasn't even, nobody even knew nothing about that back then. So she
Right.
freaked me out. I left. And so he's 100% right. You can't just be out here having loose sex, because this is how you get lured in a situation to get murdered, to
Yep.
get kidnapped. You put yourself, this woman, you don't know her
Yep.
husband comes home and kill you. So he was 100% right when he said you have to exercise some constraint. You just can't
Yeah.
be out here just sleeping around,
Yeah.
right? I was in Hawaii, there was women everywhere, and guess what else was everywhere? Herpes.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nah. So, bro,
Yeah.
we'll do this another time. We'll have part three. You get whatever you want to talk about. It's always a pleasure, because we probably didn't cover everything you want to talk about this time.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll do a
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
three. And
We
whenever,
can make it a regular thing, man. However often you want to do it, bro.
now, whenever you're ready, I mean, every time you're free, we go on your schedule. You let me know and we'll schedule.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
it could be next tomorrow. It could be the next day. Whenever, just hit me up.
Will do, bro.
All
Salute
right,
to
brother.
you again, man.
All right. Stay strong, brother.
You too, bro.
Hallelujah. So yeah, that's a good brother. Another great conversation. Y'all got any couple of questions? We'll talk about them before we go. And I'm only going to talk from my point of view, because he has his own point of view. I think this is a good thing. You see two brothers reason. You see, he say what he say. You see, I don't disagree with him. I just say what I say. So he can say what he say. I say what I say, and we never disagree. I don't disagree with nothing he say. I'm just saying this, and he's just saying that, and there's no disagreement. You know what I'm saying? We don't do disagreements. We do reasoning. So it's not for me to say he's wrong. No, brother, you wrong. No, what he says is what he says. And I could try to build on it, or I could try to add to it, but I don't have to try to tear it down. The brother is a Christian, so I don't want to tear down whatever he's doing within the Christian church as an older brother. All I could do is try to guide him as a Christian, so that he could be more closer to Christ and learn what I've learned all these years, but not to take him away from Christ. If that's his direction, that's his calling. If the Most High called him to go in that direction, it's not for me to tell him to go against what the Most High told him to do. The Most High tell Elijah man to do one thing. The Most High would tell you to do another thing. The Most High would tell me to do something else. So sometimes when you go against somebody, they on a different mission. So you just do your mission and don't try to stop another brother or sister's mission because you don't know their orders. He might be in the Army. I might be in the Navy. You might be in the Marines. You might be in the Air Force. I haven't really dated no woman that wanted anal except that one. So I've never been in that situation since then. I was like probably only 19 then. So I haven't been in that situation. I'm very choosy. I just don't sleep with just anybody. It has to be a natural, organic relationship for me to even date you more than once. So I don't want to give the impression to just go out here and sleep with everybody. I don't do that. I'm not just sleeping with just anybody. It has to be a special woman. It has to be somebody I like. For me to have any, for me to take my clothes off with somebody, we got to be close. There's got to be something there. I'm not just taking my clothes off. I'm very private like that. For a little period in Hawaii, I was out there a little bit, but it wasn't enjoyable to me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't enjoyable because I'm having sex with women I don't even know their name. So I didn't really enjoy that. I don't really enjoy sleeping from woman to woman to woman. It don't do nothing for me. Because sex to me is, I like money. I like money. I like health and money. I like health and wealth. Sex is, it is what it is. Sex is something I have after I'm healthy and after I get the money. You know what I'm saying? Sex is something after I'm finished working, after I've had a hard day's work, then it's sex. But sex is not a priority for me. The main thing I want from sex is babies. I have sex to have babies. That's why I got 6 children. When I put something in you, I want something to come out. A boy or a girl or twins. Oh my God. I'm trying to have babies. Straight up. That's why I have sex for babies. For real. So y'all got some questions. I know I missed some questions. Y'all got questions, hit me with some questions. I'll try to answer them from my perspective. And then you can ask him when he returns. The reason we doing this because he'll call me and we'll be on the phone for like an hour and a half. Because he's well learned. He studies. He studies heavy because he's at that age. I'm at the age where I'm finished my studies. I look at some stuff, but he's at the age he's still digging up information. And as time goes, there's new information. So he's finding new information that he's giving me. This what helps me keep my game up. I don't have to do a lot of studying because he gonna send it to me. Look at this. So you get to the point as a teacher that the younger brothers that's coming up as young teachers, they send you the new stuff. And what makes you stay on top is you accept it. So I accept his knowledge. When he brings me knowledge, I accept it. I don't reject it. So I always know what I know, and then he know what he know. And then it goes like that. So he rises up. I don't push brothers down. They rise and I rise, and everybody's rising. And they become gods in their own right. He's a god in his own right. He's a very unique person to be knowing what he knowing and be in the church. I see his future in 10 years going to be real interesting. Yeah, he's going to be he's going to be real interesting. I see him probably having a church when when he stopped working. They're going to be a fire church for real. So anybody got any questions? We can go through some questions. The last one I did, I took the end part out because I had interviewed him and I was wilding out for like 2 hours after. And I didn't want that wilding out I was doing to be associated with him. So part one, I chopped it off because I'm very respectful to people. And so on this one, I'm going to keep it to wherein it fits him. I'm not going to really just do me 100% like I did last time. I did me, and that conversation don't go with where he stands. So that's why I took that part off. I had to take that part off because I really should have downloaded it first and then and then I wasn't thinking I should have downloaded. I should have chopped that off, and I should have took the second part and put it on Patreon. And I missed out. I slipped on that one. No, yeah, I did because I think I deleted it too. It was on my Patreon. I shouldn't have deleted it. You got to go back and watch it, Maurice. You know what I'm saying? Somebody was telling me Adam was the first black man, and I was saying why everybody just jumped past the creation of chapter 1 to 2. Exactly. Exactly. Because it says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh, and the Word was God, which means what? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made God. In the beginning, there was the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God was made flesh. Or let's say the soul of God, because I don't like the word spirit. So in the beginning was the unphysical entity God, and that entity was made flesh. And then that entity said, let us make man in our image, male and female, which means that it wasn't an entity, it was entities, because it had to be a male and a female in order to make man in their image, male and female. So who is God talking to when God say, let us, in first chapter, let us. That's the Alpha and Omega. And that's why Haile Selassie is so important, Ijavan, because Haile Selassie is one of the only Ethiopian king that got married, had his queen there at his coronation. There was never before was a queen at the coronation on the throne like that. That's the only time that happened. The real Alpha and Omega. So that's the only time that has ever happened. The only time. That's the only time that has happened. And think about how powerful that is. It's the only time that you're going to see a black man like that with the black queen like that. And he got the whole world in his hand. He got the whole world. You see that circle in his hand? You see the triple crown? You see the scepter. What you're looking at is the modern day Pharaoh. You see the power of the Trinity over his head on the material that's hanging down. Do you know that that's all gold? That is beautiful garment. That's real gold thread, like 24 karat gold thread. Never had concubines, never had whores. Always had. And he was considered the king of kings, and she was considered not the queen of queens. She was considered the queen of kings. Think about that. She was the queen of kings, and he was the king of kings. And they not only certain people gonna see his majesty, Ijavan, so you can't really sweat that. His majesty is not for everybody to see. His majesty is only for certain people to recognize. When I first was shown pictures of his majesty, I was like, oh, they tried to run one past me real quick. So I realized I wasn't supposed to see that. I wasn't supposed to see that. The world didn't want me to see no black man like this. They ain't want me to see that. So I was just blessed to be able to see it. It's not for everybody to see that. It's a mystery. It's only some of us supposed to see that. So that's why I don't push it, because it ain't for them to know. You know what I'm saying? See, we ancient with this all the way back. You see Michael killing the dragon, and that's Michael the angel killing the dragon. And tell me he don't got the Michael Jackson afro. Stop, nah, you better save it. Look at Michael got the afro like the Jackson 5. Look at the angels got the afro like the Jackson 5. Look at your black history, black people. This is one of the oldest Bibles. This Bible 500 years old right here that you're looking at. Look at these black images of Mary and Christ and the two angels at the bottom and the two angels at the top. I don't know if those is angels at the bottom, those is angels at the top. And look at Michael, the dragon slayer, killing the dragon. And look at the black depiction that they don't want you to see. Up in Ethiopia, where they have different type of skin shades like that, because it's not by the equator. So they'll be kind of light or dark. So you can see the lighter skinned Ethiopian brothers with the big afros. You know what I'm saying? You already know who they is by the fro. You know what I'm saying? They got the big afro. Angels with the big afro. And that was before the afro was even popular. Think about that. If this book is 500 years old, the afro came out in the 60s, right? Think about that. Let that sink in. It looked like he had a blowout in the afro pig, don't it? Now, how 500 years ago, they drove somebody with a big ass afro when the afro came out in America in the 60s. And this book 500 years old. Which means this book came out in what, the 1600s? How they got a big afro in the 1600s? Now, think about it. For 500 years old, that'd be the 1900s, wouldn't it? No, that'd be the 1600s. Something like that, because we only in 2000 something. Well, I'm thinking thousands of years. Yeah, no, that's right. Let me see, 500 years ago. Yeah, it'd be like the 19, that'd be like, man, I can't hardly figure that out. 2024. What's 500 from 2024? It's like the 1500s, right? It's like 1524, something like that. That's what I'm thinking. They got a big old afro already. Afro didn't come out to the 1900s. You know what I'm saying? Just think about that. Let that settle in. Why they draw them with the big afro? And we didn't even have soul training. We didn't have afro sheen. We didn't have a blowout. We had an afro pick. How you get his fro like that? His fro popping. You can see all in Russia. You can see how they depict us. You see the brother with the dreads. You know what I'm saying? They don't want y'all to know y'all glory and y'all history. You know? Look at brothers back in Ethiopia with the afros popping. Look at His Majesty with the fro. Way before it was in the United States. Look at the strong black brothers. Look at the King of Kings with the strong black brothers there in Ethiopia before they did stuff to lighten up their skin so you won't see they black. This your history, black man and black woman. They don't want you to know none of that. You know what I'm saying? Anybody got any questions? We could go through some questions. We could go through some stuff. You know what I'm saying? All over the world, they know what we don't know. You know what I mean? They already know. They already know who we are. They just trying to make sure we don't know who they are. When I went to Hawaii, I was around a lot of Filipinos, and they women wear the Black Madonna earrings. Black Madonna big in the Philippines and Poland and over in Europe. You got to understand that Mary did more miracles than Christ. So over in the Philippines, you see they got the Black Christ in the Philippines. They got the Black Christ in Russia. Other people in the world know who we are, know our lineage. Why did Leviticus and other books mention meat eating? Good question. Meat was a contingency plan, Ijavan. If you look at the Bible and you look when God said, okay, you can eat certain animals you can't. That was after the flood. The flood wiped out a lot of vegetation. So a lot of vegetation got wiped out. So now after the flood, all they had was whatever little vegetation was on the ark and the animals. The earth had to replenish itself. So this is when the contingency plan that you were allowed to eat that to survive. In other words, it wasn't a sin, right? So smoking cigarettes is not a sin. It will give you cancer, though. So a lot of people don't understand, Ajavan, that eating meat is not a sin. Eating meat is not a sin. We don't say don't eat meat because it's against God. It's not a sin. It's just not good for your colon. So everything that's not good for our body is not a sin in the eyes of Jah. This is what a lot of people understand. That you got the right to kill yourself and that won't be held against you as a mortal sin. So there's a difference between what's looked at as a sin and what's looked at as just you doing what you want to do. And in the eyes of God, the only thing the most I care about is how you treat other people. The Ten Commandments is all based on other people. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house or ox or steal. You shouldn't steal from your neighbor. So in God's world, God is most interested in what you do to other people, not so much interested in what you do to yourself. So eating meat, when I say I eat plant-based and people say God said you can eat meat, God didn't say it wasn't going to kill you though. God just said God ain't going to punish you for it. So in other words, just because you die from cancer, that don't mean God holds it against you. God's not going to hold it against you if you get cancer. So I tell people all the time, you can smoke cigarettes, you ain't going to go to hell. You just going to go to the cancer treatment clinic. That's all. You can eat meat, you ain't going to go to hell. You just going to get diabetes or you're going to have to go and you're going to have prostate cancer or colon cancer or rectal cancer or something. And not all the time will you have that, depending on how many vegetables you eat. So these things are not against God. But at the same time, when you get too many people on the planet and then you have to start providing meat for all these people, the providing of this meat becomes ungodly because now you got to destroy the earth in order to have this many cows. So that's where it becomes antichrist. It becomes antichrist. It becomes negative. It becomes evil because now you're trying to do something that the earth can't do. And now you become destructive to the earth because you're trying to feed 1 billion of people cows. And the earth is not set up for people to eat all these cows. So now, because you want people to eat all these cows, you're going to want to go down to the Amazon and cut all the trees down so you can have cattle. Then when you cut all the trees down, then the tornadoes and the hurricanes and the floods come. So God ain't got to be mad at you. The earth going to judge you. It's 2 judgment days. It's the judgment of God based on how you treat people, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness of, and the earth will judge you if you do stuff to throw off the balance of the earth. You don't got to go to heaven. You ain't got to go to hell. You ain't got to go to hell. You could just drown. God ain't going to hold it against you because you drowned your stupid ass self because you ruined the planet. So that's why eating meat is no good, because eating meat becomes impossible. It becomes an impossible feat. You're trying to do something that you can't do. You can't raise enough chickens and cows and shit to feed billions and billions and trillions of people on the earth. So now you burning down the forests and everything so you can have cow. And this is rich people food. Watch this. Watch this. A cow provide enough uh, meat to feed 360 people, right? Watch this. I'm going to show you how much water and how much food you got to feed a cow to get one steak. And then you tell me if it's sustainable. Let's start with the water. It's an unsustainable lifestyle. You got to understand, meat is for the rich. Meat is not for the poor. Meat is not for the poor. I was on Oahu and the Big Island, but I hung out on Maui. I was on the Big Island because that's where they grew the weed at, and that's where the outlaws was at. The other islands wasn't nothing to be there for. Okay? How much water is needed to produce 1 pound of food? Okay? Look at tomatoes and look at a cow. Now you tell me. Look at the fruit and vegetables, how little it takes. That's the world they got us living in. You know what I mean? It's not sustainable. Meat is not sustainable. Eating meat is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to keep being able to produce all this meat, man, to feed these people. That's what you get, 1 pound of steak. That's how much water. It take for you to get that little bit of meat. I used to be in Hawaii and watch the Hawaiians, and the Hawaiians would have a whole big truck full of pineapples and breadfruit and stuff. And they go give all of that food that hundreds of people to eat, and they go give it to 5 pigs. I was like, bro, y'all backwards. They go get truckloads of food that could feed a lot of people, and they get at the 5 pigs that can't hardly feed nobody. Yeah, Ijavan. This how you get one patty. This how you get one patty. Just one burger. This what it takes just for one burger. That bag of food there could feed how many people? 6.5 pounds, over 6.5 pounds of grain for one little ass patty. Six and a half pounds of grain. You know what I mean? For one little ass patty. And when you cook that grain gonna swell up. You can feed a lot of people with that grain with just a couple cups of it. You can make more food with a cup of the grain than you can with the patty. Unbelievable. It's not sustainable. That's why when the pandemic come, you couldn't afford to get no meat. And I used to hang with some Trinidadian brethren, and they lived in the jungle. And they said when they lived in the jungle, because they was plant-based and stuff like that, and they didn't kill the animals, they said if they would walk past the snake wouldn't even bite them. The snake wouldn't even recognize them as a human or nothing to eat. They said when you kill an animal and you get around animals, animals can smell it on you, and animals can know you're an animal killer. And when I lived in Hawaii and I lived up in the rainforest, all the animals treated me like I was a part of the jungle. They didn't treat me like a human being. I was just like a tree. I was in there like another bird. I was just another creature. They didn't invade my space or nothing. I lived in harmony with them. They didn't come into my camp because I didn't cook meat. If I cooked meat, they would have killed my white friends that cooked meat. The mongoose used to run into their tent. Their camps would always get raided by mongoose and rats and shit. Rats and shit didn't come around me because I didn't eat meat. The mongoose stayed on the outskirts. I would throw mangoes when I get finished, throw the mango and leave a little mango on there so they could eat it. And they just waited for me, and they just lived how they lived. They didn't invade my space because they looked at me as another natural creature. They didn't look at me as an op or as an enemy. The mosquitoes don't bite me like that. Mosquitoes don't bite me like that. If I go somewhere with some mosquitoes and the meat eater, they're gonna bite the meat eater. They're not gonna bite me. I'm telling you, one time I told this story all the time. One time I was at the beach. I used to sell weed at the beach at Bongo Beach. And I was out by the water, right? And the drums was over there. And I'm right here. I'm on the lake. And the drums is across where you drive in the parking lot on the other side. So I used to sell weed. So this dude was coming over to me to buy some weed. Big old light-skinned dude. Like, I don't know, he wasn't black. Maybe he was half black, half something else. So he came up, he said, you got weed, so I'm selling the weed. When I give him the bag of weed, mosquitoes is flying around, landed on me. So I killed the mosquito. It's mosquitoes. What the hell? So now when he got the weed and he walked away, the sun was going down. And there's a certain angle where you could see. So when he walked away, the way the sun was starting to set, mosquitoes was all around him. There was a swarm of mosquitoes following him, and he was doing this. And they was just following him. Now he can't see him because he's not in the position to see the light, like a demonic halo was around him. And no more mosquitoes was where I was at. He had brought him over there. Wasn't no mosquitoes. When he walked over there, a big flesh-eating, meat-eating dude sweating, and they can smell that meat. When he came over to me, mosquitoes was everywhere. When he left, there was no more mosquitoes again. And I seen them around him. And I was like, whoa. Like sometimes if you open your eyes, you see things. I mean, it was a halo of them. And he was doing this because he had like a tank top type shirt on. He was a big old swole up, light-skinned dude. And he was doing this when he was walking. And they was just, and he don't even know he couldn't see because I couldn't see they was on him like that when he was standing next to me. I didn't see him. I just was like, what? But when he left, they left with him. They left with him. And that was my sign right there. Oh, wow. They smell that flesh on them. Y'all got any other questions? You know, we got to do better. Y'all got to stop listening to these people killing you, feeding you death. That's how they feed you. You can listen to them if you want to. They making money. Ain't no best beach in Hawaii. It's Hawaii. Every beach is its own beach. We got white sand beach, black sand beach, green sand beach, regular sand beach. It's just beaches. It's too many beaches. It's Hawaii. It's like the whole Hawaii is a beach. You know what I'm saying? The whole island is a beach. All around, the whole thing is a beach. It's just a beach. It's not like when you go places and then there's a beach and then there's a beach. No, the whole circle is a beach. Ask Ajavan. Y'all ask why I'm here. Ask some more questions. Look, it takes 48 pounds of grain to produce 3 pounds of beef. Look how much people we can feed with one, okay? We could feed all those people with what we feed one person with. Who think that's decent? Tell me this not for the rich. It's for the rich then. It's for the 1%ers. Meat is for the 1%. It's not really for you. You see the picture. Which one would you rather feed? If Peter was the first pope of Rome, black folks sell us out, and set us back in real life then. So that's why His Majesty said we have to forgive the white man and work on us as a people, basically. Black folks ain't really selling us out because black folks don't know. So you only can sell us out if you're intentionally doing something against us. Black folks don't know because black folks come up uh, under slavery and corruption. So black folks ain't really selling us out. They don't know no better, right? Because when black folks was coming up, black folks, they didn't read us the Bible, Ijavan. They read us the slave Bible. And the slave Bible was thinner than the Bible, and it took out everything that say you shouldn't be abusive, you shouldn't be a cruel master, you can't beat people, you can't own slaves. They took all that out, and they gave us a Bible that only says stuff out of context so that they could use it to make a slave out of you. So black folks in America was brought up on the slave Bible, and black folks don't read the Bible. Black folks listen to the minister and read hymns and sing songs. Black people don't actually read the Bible. Christians do not read the Bible. The Bible is the only book that you can flick through and say you read it. Any other book, you have to actually read it and then say, yeah, I read it. The Bible is a book where you can read John here, Romans here, this here, and then said you read it. So the Bible is the only book where you don't have to actually read it. You can just flick through it and then say, yeah, I read the Bible. You read the Bible, but have you read the Bible? You just read the Bible, meaning you flick through it, but you have read, because you read a book, meaning you read it from the beginning to the end. You can't read. If a book got 300 pages, you can't read 10 pages and say you read the book. Well, the Bible is some people read verses all the time. So they're like, I read my Bible all the time. You read your Bible, but have you read your Bible? No. Black folks ain't read the Bible, bro. Black folks ain't read the Bible. So now they ain't selling us out. They just don't know no better. I really don't blame black people from the job we supposed to do, those of us that know better. You know what I'm saying? Because the scriptures say, woe be unto the shepherd that lead my sheep astray. So the roster man, when he fell off, he's to blame. Because when the brethren got out here and was supposed to be the shepherd, they was responsible for making sure the people, the preacher's responsible for making sure the people, it ain't the people's fault. It's my fault if I lead y'all astray. That's not going to be y'all fault. It ain't black people, it's the teachers that's selling us out. You know what I'm saying? Not just roster the Christians, the Muslims, all of the blacks, the Black Power, the Pan Africans. Ain't none of them bringing nothing to the people of any value to better the people. Not that I've seen. Because how can they unite people when they can't even unite? Our schools of thoughts don't even unite. So how can the Nation of Islam help black people? How can Hebrew Israelites help black people? How can Rastas help black people unite when the Rastas and the Muslims, the Nation of Islam and the Hebrews and them don't unite? How could they preach what we should do? They don't even get together. So the leaders of these groups stay separate and then they preach unity, which is phony. If you ask me a question, Christophers, leave out the conspiracy stuff. That's not a legitimate question. You try to throw conspiracy in there and ask me a question. Just ask me by the island. What island are you talking about? Don't try to run a quick one on me. Just ask me the question. All that extra conspiracy stuff, leave that out of there. At that point, then your question's not legitimate. Your question's not legitimate because the island got a name. Why you just couldn't ask about the island? What is all that extra? Anybody else got some questions? We can answer. People say white people are different species and not human, saying that we won, so why black folks be saying they better than white folks? I mean, if they don't got some black people, so some black people say all kind of stuff, I just mind. So when some black people say something, then that's just some black people, right? So that's just some black people. They go and they say, oh, they from another planet, they the serpent people and all that, right? But that's just some of them say that. They don't really got knowledge. They trying to figure out some way we different. So they just make it up as they go, basically. They just make it up as they go. They try to be too smart. They trying to be smart, you know? Oh, they the reptilians and all that nutism. I guess the polar bear is a reptilian bear, right? See all that? The polar bear white. The reptilians. I mean, there's reptilians, but they ain't the white people. Ain't no reptilians. There's all kind of there's there's all kind of species out in the galaxy. And all these creatures on these various planets don't look like us, so you know. I got a book that I'm writing about all of that, so I don't want to give it away. But I got a theory on all of that. But you can listen to that. That stuff is just basically one brother make a philosophy, he puts it out there, everybody starts parroting it to try to sound deep. And once you know the original teacher that said it, the students, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I just man, like somebody will put some knowledge out there, like a Dr. York. And then when people like me, we read the original sources. And then what happens is brothers and sisters that don't know people didn't read that. So they come out parroting all this regurgitated knowledge, trying to act like they saying something deep, when really they ain't saying no original knowledge. They following this fake. Dr. York was fake. He didn't know nothing what he was talking about. If he had that much knowledge, he wouldn't have been allegedly a pedophile. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Dr. York was a nut. Any of these people that get out here with all this knowledge, you'll see them go crazy like young Pharaoh. You see young Pharaoh crazy? Yeah, look up the name of it and then ask me the question because it got a name. If you know all that person you mentioned, but then you don't know the island, then what did you learn about the person for, but didn't learn about the island? That don't really make a lot of sense to me. That you asked me about a person, that you looked at what they did, and you remember their name, but you don't know the island that this was done on. So if you say so, I don't believe the shit. If so, then you need to stop looking at conspiracy theories if you don't remember the conspiracy theory. Then why you asking me something you don't even remember? You don't even know what island it is. So what you asking me for? I'm not finna answer that question. Ask me something more intelligent. I don't really got time for clown shit, bro. You ask me about a person, but you don't even know the island. I don't know. Go look it up, bro. I'm not really. I'm not finna answer a whole bunch of bullshit questions. Somebody gonna ask me some questions based on what I'm already talking about. Because this person I'm talking over here about the Bible and godly stuff, and this person trying to ask me some goofy shit that ain't on shit, trying to distract the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I can't. I don't really mess with people like that. You ain't interested in this particular conversation, log off, bro. When you was doubting yourself, you found this channel. That's good, Ijavan. Do your music. Don't never doubt yourself. Do your music forever. Have to believe in what you do and do your music. And you have to push your music and you have to stay in your music and you have to believe in your music and you have to promote your music. A lot of music artists, they just want to make the music. That's why they fail. They don't want to promote the music. They don't want to promote themselves. They don't know how to make content to get attention. The music ain't gonna go nowhere unless it's got a platform to advertise on. So it used to be a time that you make the music and then you can go on Caribbean Vibes or you can go on a radio station or you can go on BET or you can go on MTV and they would promote you. But you don't have that no more. So now you got to be the music and you got to be BET. You got to be your own BET. So if you want your music to go somewhere, you got to turn up your social media. You got to get everybody to watch you. And then when everybody watch you, then you say, by the way, while you watching me, go check out my music. So you got to be like the football game, right, Ijavan? Everybody watch the football game. So then everybody watch the Super Bowl. So now once people see that everybody gonna watch the Super Bowl, what happens? Everybody wants their commercial to run during the Super Bowl because everybody eyes is on the Super Bowl. So now they can see you. So you got to be the Super Bowl and the commercials, Ijavan. You got to be the Super Bowl. Get everybody to look at you and then sell your product. Got to turn your social media game up and be active on social media in 2024. You got to be going live. You got to be showing something of interest on your social media. You got to be on your social media every day. Follow 50 Cent and you'll see. 50 Cent is on his social media every day, 365 every day. And this is how he promotes his tours, his businesses, his TV shows. Because he's like, hey, look at me, look at me. Okay, go watch my show. Hey, look at me, look at me. You're going to have to do it every day. When you take a day off, you got to be sick about that. Like, dang, man, I ain't get out there. Every day you got to post until you get famous. And then when you get famous, then you archive all the posts and only leave your music up. But until you get famous, you got to go live. You got to go live. You got to go live. I'm live. If you're a recording artist, you got to go live on Instagram. YouTube ain't it for a recording artist. Instagram is where you got to be for a recording artist. You got to go live on Instagram. That's for all the rappers, all the musicians. You want to be popping in music, you got to go live on Instagram. It's a job. I'm about to drop some songs in about a week or two. Well, I ain't gonna drop them in a week or two. I'm record them in a week or two. I don't know when they're gonna get mastered, but once they get mastered, you'll see. Because I'll be doing this. I got my businesses, and I'll be a recording artist. I'm officially gonna be a recording artist, and I got to do what recording artists got to do. So I'm gonna be out doing a promo. I'll be on the internet all day and late into the night because I got to do Pharaoh Said That. I got to do Black on Black Sports, which I'm only going to drop those once a week. Right? Like when you record your songs, you got to make sure your songs is fire. Then you got to get your songs professionally mixed. Then you got to get your songs professionally mastered. If they're not mixed and mastered, don't let nobody hear your song until they are complete. They must be mixed and they must be mastered. When y'all hear my song, it will be 100% professionally mixed and it will be 100% professionally mastered. And if I put it out and then it don't do nothing, I'll make another song. And before you hear that one, it will be professionally mixed and it will be professionally mastered. And the person, don't never let the person that do the mixing do the mastering because they lying. They just turning it up loud. That's not mastering. These studios don't have mastering equipment. They be lying. There's no regular studio got mastering equipment. You got to go to a mastering studio. That's a whole different type of equipment. I'm still coming out with this the news too. Coming out with this the news is right behind. Only reason it didn't come out because I pushed the sports show in front. I'm finna premiere the sports show, or the news show would have been done. My projects get pushed back, Maurice. I was going to do the news, and then it got pushed back with other projects, right? Which I don't have no problem pushing it back. So I end up pushing the news back because I had other projects jumped in the way. And when I had other projects jumped in the way, then I had to push the news back because I jumped into the reparations thing and I got Pay Black Americans, and then I had to really drop everything and put that in front to get that company off the ground, to get everything done for Pay Black Americans. So I had to push this the news back. And I got Pay Black American popping off the ground, but then I got Black on Black Sports. So I had to push the news back again while I get Black on Black Sports off the ground. But I used the octopus, so the only thing that slowed me down is to getting them started. Once I get them started, it's easy to juggle them because it's like I call it the octopus. They don't interfere with each other. Black on Black Sports, I'll be able to sit down 1 or 2 days. I'll be able to record if I record 4 episodes, that's a month's worth because I'm only going to release them once a week. So that'll be a month's worth. I can sit down, I can do 8 episodes in 1 day. So now that won't interfere with this. Black on Black Sports won't interfere with this because just like I told Ijavan, I'm the Super Bowl and Black on Black Sports is the commercials. So I'll use people watching me to promote Black on Black Sports, basically, because I'm the Super Bowl and Black on Black Sports is the commercial, basically. That's how you do it, just like this.
Do you want to show the world that you support reparations for Black Americans? Well, get your reparations gear at Pay Black Americans at www.payblackAmericans.com.
So yeah, that's how you do it. And tomorrow we're going to be going hard with that. Well, today, MLK Day, so we're going to be going hard with the reparations. So get ready for that. So yeah, that's how you do it. But you don't get frustrated. You just take your time. You know, you take your time and do what you got to do. You got to live, right? So when you're busy, it gives you something to live for. Eat right, exercise, take care of yourself. Take your time and do what you got to do. Oh, I got a job. Oh, gee, I got a job, Pharaoh. I want to start a business, but I got a job. I'm so tired. Take your time and start the business. You get home, relax, make you something to eat. And then before you go to bed, instead of sitting up watching that goofy-ass TV, take 2 or 3 hours to get your business off the ground. 2 hours today, 2 hours tomorrow. Monday through Fridays, 2 hours. That's 10 hours. Saturday, come run around, do whatever you're going to do with the children. When you get through and they go to bed, maybe you don't want to do nothing that day. Sunday, you ain't doing shit. Why you ain't working on your business on Sunday? You ain't doing nothing. Just because you got a job, you're supposed to be taking your money from your job and investing it in another stream of income. You're not just supposed to be going to work, spinning your wheels. Because you go to work one day and they say, listen, after 3 weeks from now, this is over with. What happened? Oh, the company folded. Somebody bought the company and they ain't keeping none of our guys. All that. Stop believing in these jobs. I'm 66. You better listen to me. You know, me and my friends got sent home because they sold the company right from under you. They ain't tell you it's gone. While they was negotiating to sell it, they ain't tell you nothing. They just tell you when this deal go to. Anybody got any other questions? So I got that going on, and I got Black on Black Sports going on. That's going to pop off in February. Check out Black on Black Sports. So yeah, check out Black on Black Sports. That's starting the first week of February. Black on Black Sports. It's gonna be popping. And then I'm gonna get the news channel off the ground. Anybody got any more questions? Okay, so I guess we done for tonight. Stay positive. Always keep some positive energy. And it's good to study about what's going on, you know, with the soul and what's going on with righteousness, but don't let religion take over your life. At the beginning of the day and the end of the day, it's all about how you treat other people. So no matter what ideology you under, don't let that ideology separate you from other people and get so stuck in your religious mentality that you become not a person. You got to be a person. You just got to be a regular person. And don't let these schools of thought confuse you. Victory.